781. Seeking a chance to survive in desperate situations. Although the holy embryo Shubai had already left, the clone Shubai was still immersed in the process of the former's half-day golden core completion. No wonder, even just being touched by a bit of Mr. Bai's charm, the clone's cultivation talent is so terrifying. My will is heaven's will, my heart is heaven's heart. Shubai repeated this sentence in a low voice, a realization dawning in his heart. Mr. Bai is probably a being similar to the embodiment of the heavenly Tao. If there were no restraints from the new law, instantly transforming into a god wouldn't be difficult. With the help of the memories transmitted from the holy embryo Shubai, the clone was able to fully experience what it felt like to be in heaven and man in one. Currently, the relationship between the main body Li Fan, the clone Shubai, and the holy embryo Shubai is somewhat mysterious. Although they are still dominated by the same consciousness, the three bodies have different aptitudes. Therefore, even for the same thing, they will have different feelings. The clone Shubai's talent is far better than Li Fan's. And the holy embryo Shubai is even far above the clone Shubai. Moreover, from the moment it separated from the mother body, the holy embryo Shubai suffered even more severe contamination. Subconsciously, it would do things beyond control. It's like tripping for no reason while walking down the street. It must be due to some external force. But now, Shubai, whether clone or holy embryo, is still ignorant and unable to resist the external force causing this phenomenon. He can only let the changes happen silently to himself. The only thing that can be confirmed is that although the final outcome is already destined and cannot be reversed, the holy embryo Shubai has not yet developed its own independent consciousness. Its behavior is still controlled by Li Fan. This is why Li Fan, after realizing that he had been affected by Mr. Bai and could not actively revert, took the initiative to create the holy embryo. Since it can't be stopped, it's better to take the initiative and seize control. And also secretly plant a nail in the process. For example, if Mr. Bai were to awaken on his own, after possessing Li Fan's memories, he might try building foundation with myself, thereby breaking free from the shackles of Dharma transmission and opening up a new path of cultivation. If this path is theoretically feasible, then Mr. Bai is definitely the most likely to realize it. But Li Fan just won't let him do it. Instead, he manipulates the holy embryo Shubai to build the foundation with Heaven's Will Sword and then still takes the path of the new law. After Mr. Bai is reborn, he might have a battle with Dharma transmission. It's good to add some difficulty for him. Li Fan has no goodwill towards this being who wants to be reborn through his body. However, what's more likely is, once the other party awakens its own consciousness, the first thing it will do is probably to find the main body Li Fan and seize the revert to truth treasure. After all, he has all of Li Fan's memories. At that time, Li Fan will really be like a lamb to the slaughter, unable to resist. I must make arrangements before then. I don't have much time left. Shubai's expression became unusually solemn. With the holy embryo Shubai's cultivation speed, by the time Mr. Bai finally awakens, his cultivation will definitely surpass Li Fan's by too much. In addition, he synchronizes Li Fan's memories. He knows everything about Li Fan's prior arrangements. In this case, wanting to escape from the other party's hands. It can be said to be as difficult as ascending to heaven. The only possible chance of survival lies in the incarnation function of revert to truth. Though dead, still alive, the true spirit is immortal. Transform into an object with the body, crossing through the ages. Heavenly Yang Junior Brother, whether you can escape this calamity depends entirely on you. If there is really a next life, I will definitely treat you well. Shubai thought to himself. After activating the incarnation function, one can abandon the physical body and entrust the true spirit to an item. When the duration reaches its limit, revert to truth can be activated automatically. This is also the only way Li Fan can think of to get rid of Mr. Bai's mental control. However, if he easily transforms into an object with the body now, then when Mr. Bai's will awakens, he will also have memories of Li Fan's transformation into an object with the body. There is still a high probability that he will find Li Fan's location. At that time, Li Fan's end might be even more miserable. If I want to hide it from Mr. Bai, I must first hide it from myself. Before activating the incarnation function, I must not determine the target at all. At the same time, I must use the chaos word incantation to interfere with it. Shubai's brain was running fast, thinking about a way to break the situation. 7 days later, Shu Bai left the secret room and first returned to Tianliang City, resigning from his position as communication envoy. This move immediately stunned Nangong Shirong. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can say it directly. Why bother quitting? Do you think the position is too low? I can promote you. Based on the merits you have made over the years, it is enough to silence others. He quickly persuaded. Shu Bai shook his head slightly. Thank you for your kindness, sir. But the other day, I suddenly felt something in my heart. I only feel that worldly affairs are busy and useless to myself. No matter how high the official position or how many resources there are, if you don't focus on cultivation itself, it's useless. Instead, it becomes a burden. Shu Bai put on an appearance of seeing through the world, coupled with his otherworldly appearance. He really fooled Nangong Shirong. It's just a bit of a pity. In a few decades or hundreds of years, when I ascend to the Immortal Alliance headquarters, this Tianliang prefecture will always be handed over to you. Among my subordinates, you are the most reliable. Seeing that Shu Bai was determined and not pretending, Nangong Shirong shook his head slightly, sighing. He tried to make a final attempt to keep him. After being ruthlessly rejected by Shu Bai, he said, Tianliang prefecture will always have a place for you. When you change your mind in the future, you can come back to me at any time. Then I would like to thank you in advance, sir. Shu Bai bowed and floated away. Nangong Shirong looked at his back with a face full of doubt. Shu Bai's resignation did cause a lot of waves. After all, the positions in the Myriad Immortals Alliance are one radish per pit. Now that a lucrative position like the communication envoy is suddenly vacant, it naturally attracts various forces to compete for it. But soon, an event easily suppressed the storm brought about by Shu Bai's resignation. In the process of the Immortal Alliance cultivators conquering the small world, an unexpected change finally occurred. Tian sect, this famous ancient immortal sect. Not only was it not destroyed, it also exists extremely prosperously in a certain small world. After a team of Myriad Immortals Alliance cultivators broke in, they were easily defeated by the other party. However, the Tian sect did not hurt anyone, but released them all. There will be 2 more normal updates in the evening. 782. All realms come to vote. The entrance to the small world was in Chongjing Prefecture. Along with that group of cultivators returning, there was also a Dao harmonization cultivator from the Tian sect. This person, as a representative of the Tian sect, visited Chongjing Heavenly City and publicly raised a question. The Tian sect wishes to join the Myriad Immortals Alliance as a whole sect, is that acceptable? The city lord of Chongjing City, Meng Shufu, was also a Dao harmonization cultivator. However, he did not dare to make decisions on his own regarding such matters. After temporarily appeasing the other party, he hurriedly went to the headquarters of the Myriad Immortals Alliance to report the situation. However, the Dao harmonization cultivator from the Tian sect looked calm and relaxed, without any trace of tension. It seemed that he had already known the outcome of Meng Shufu's trip. As expected, not long after, the Immortal Alliance officially released an announcement. In order to further accelerate the pace of Xuanwang unification, and to reduce unnecessary cultivator casualties and alleviate the burden on the Rebirth Mansion, the Myriad Immortals Alliance welcomes the forces and sects in various small worlds to join the Myriad Immortals Alliance. The Myriad Immortals Alliance will not expel those who voluntarily submit from their current residences. They only need to cooperate with the observing the heavens and recognizing the earth work of the Tianshuan treasure mirror. Moreover, the Myriad Immortals Alliance has other preferential treatments in terms of resource and cultivation technique support. In addition, cultivators who successfully persuade the forces of the Cave Heaven small world to surrender can still receive corresponding merit rewards. As soon as the announcement came out, many cultivators in the world instantly became active. They were not good at fighting, but carrying the banner of the Myriad Immortals Alliance and adding such favorable conditions to persuade them to surrender, wasn't that simple. So, the cultivators who had been somewhat slack once again moved with the wind. In Chongjing Prefecture, Meng Shufu looked at the Dao harmonization cultivator from the Tian sect opposite him, and he suddenly understood. No wonder the other party had not been worried from beginning to end. In ancient times, the Tian sect was famous all over the world for its deduction techniques. Now, this surrender must have been calculated long ago. Ancient cultivators should not be underestimated. Meng Shufu thought secretly, and very politely led the Tian sect's Dao harmonization cultivator into the headquarters of the Myriad Immortals Alliance to discuss the specific surrender matters. 3 days later, A piece of news spread like wildfire. Not long ago, the sect master of the Tian sect deduced the result that the Myriad Immortals Alliance was about to unify the Xuanwang realm. After some discussion, the entire sect reached a consensus to follow the will of heaven and no longer make unnecessary resistance. This time, he came to negotiate in person. After today, the Tian sect will officially join the Myriad Immortals Alliance. This is also the first small world force to voluntarily surrender and be accepted. When the news came out, the cultivators of the Myriad Immortals Alliance were extremely excited. After all, even rogue cultivators had heard of the Tian sect's name. Now that they have voluntarily surrendered to the Myriad Immortals Alliance, it seems that the day of Xuanwang's unification is really not far away. The cultivators suddenly felt a little nervous and vowed to seize this last opportunity to earn as much merit as possible. Inside Changsheng Valley, I once asked my disciples to inquire about the news of those ancient sects, and they all said that the Tian sect had already been destroyed in the Great Calamity. But I didn't expect that they were still alive and well, Lu San said with a sneer. Yes, the Tian sect's deduction technique is unparalleled in the world. How could they not take precautions against the coming of the Great Calamity? It's just that they put down their former arrogance and voluntarily surrendered to the Myriad Immortals Alliance. This is a bit beyond my expectations. According to their temperament back then, I'm afraid they would never agree unless more than half of the cultivators died. Lu San's tone was not polite, and he obviously had no good feelings for this Tian sect. It's just that the general trend is unstoppable. What is face worth compared to one's own life? Fang Ziji said disapprovingly. This is just a good opportunity for us. Let's see what the treatment is like after surrendering to the Myriad Immortals Alliance. If it is indeed as the Myriad Immortals Alliance announced, that we can keep our own place to live and maintain a certain degree of independence, then surrendering directly is also a good method, Shu Bai suddenly said. As soon as these words came out, Lu San, Fang Ziji, and Zhang Yushan all stared straight at Shu Bai. It seemed that they had not expected him to say such a thing. Shu Bai didn't care and said, "Old Lu, haven't you always wanted to release the other elders and disciples in the Medicine King Cauldron? If the Myriad Immortals Alliance can provide cultivation technique support, then you don't have to worry about them killing each other because of the restrictions of incompatible cultivation methods. We have been awake for so long, and it is not a good idea to keep them in the Great Dream Spring and Autumn formation all the time." Shu Bai's tone was quite relaxed. Lu San opened his mouth slightly, but stopped inexplicably. Finally, he said hesitantly, "Is it a bit rash to do this?" Shu Bai waved his hand. "Old Lu, you are overthinking it. The Tian sect is good at deduction. If surrender is really harmful to them, they would never do so. Since they choose to surrender at this time, it means there is nothing serious. In fact, the sooner you choose to join the Myriad Immortals Alliance, the more benefits you will probably get. After all, the Myriad Immortals Alliance needs to set a good example for the other remaining small worlds. If they say one thing and do another, it will only backfire and cause a crazy counterattack from the small worlds. For the current Myriad Immortals Alliance, unifying the Xuanwang realm and completing the upgrade of the Tianshuan mirror is the top priority. A little cultivation technique resources are nothing." Shu Bai explained in great detail, and the reasons were quite sufficient. Lu San was unable to refute it for a while. "Okay, it's good to surrender. Actually, I wanted to say this a long time ago, but I was afraid that the sect master would blame me, so I never mentioned it," Fang Ziji said happily, very supportive of Shu Bai's suggestion. "Old Fang, I have wanted to go to the Myriad Immortals Alliance for a long time. I heard that their refining techniques have improved too much compared to our time. I really want to see it with my own eyes. Yushan, didn't you want to find that woman for another competition? You can issue a challenge openly in the future." Zhang Yushan was silent. She was not a disciple of the Medicine King sect in the first place. She only stayed in the Medicine King sect to suppress the Wooding Hell's evil aura. She didn't have much sense of belonging to the Medicine King sect. So she had no objection to Shu Bai's decision. Lu San sighed slightly in his heart when he saw this. At the same time, he looked at Shu Bai, and doubts arose in his heart. "Okay, let's put this matter on hold for now. After the Tian sect is completely assimilated, we will personally visit them to see if what the Immortal Alliance said is true. I think that day should not be far away," Shu Bai said with a slight smile. "By the way, Mr. Fang, how is your research on the End Stone Disc going?" He suddenly changed the subject. Fang Ziji's original smile suddenly froze on his face. He instantly looked at Lu San. Old Lu, how are those little guys doing? Has anyone successfully built their foundation with me? If you don't have any results here, my research can't go on either. Fang Ziji asked with confidence. 783. 1,000 ways to plot chaos. Open black lens bracket using me as the foundation, close black lens bracket. Lu San gave a wry smile. The young master has come up with some strange ideas from who knows where. The difficulty is considerable. Those little fellows can all be called geniuses. During this time, they have all advanced to the completion of chi refining. But they are stuck by this foundation establishment method. Lu San shook his head. In my opinion, it is really difficult for them to successfully use me as their foundation. This method was initially conceived as a last resort to deceive the heavenly mystery treasure mirror. Now that we plan to submit to the Myriad Immortals Alliance, should we continue? Or, Lu San asked tentatively. It's always wise to be cautious. Joining the Myriad Immortals Alliance might not pose any immediate danger. But we can't rule out the possibility of a falling out in the future. Shubai stroked his chin, pondering deeply. Having a trump card for self-preservation is always good. Let's continue with this plan, Shubai said in a deep voice. A hint of astonishment flashed in Lu San's eyes, and he nodded subconsciously. The sect master is indeed the most thoughtful, Fang Ziji echoed repeatedly. At this moment, Shubai looked at Zhang Yushan again. I heard that Elder Zhang is still bothered by her narrow defeat against a Dao harmonization female cultivator from the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Zhang Yushan frowned and nodded. The new Dao harmonization method steals the power of heaven and earth. In a fight, it is indeed superior to the old method. But I have already come up with a countermeasure. Next time, I will definitely give her a good beating. A cold glint flashed in Zhang Yushan's eyes. Shubai didn't ask further. He simply took out a cyan fruit that seemed to exist between reality and illusion from his storage ring. This item contains the principles of heaven and earth and is a rare treasure in this world. Perhaps it will be helpful to Elder Zhang. Shubai didn't need to say more. The moment the real temptation fruit appeared, the aura it contained instantly attracted the attention of the 3 Dao harmonization cultivators present. Although they didn't know the true use of this fruit, the traces of law fluctuations emanating from it were enough to prove its extraordinary nature. Fang Ziji's mouth was watering, and he muttered repeatedly, Sect Master, you are really biased. You only give such good things to Yushan. Do you have any more? Give me one to try. Shubai chuckled. You think these are fruits on a tree that I can just take out several of them? This item took me a long time to accumulate before I barely managed to buy it. If I didn't see that Elder Zhang was so troubled by this matter, I wouldn't have taken it out so easily. To be honest, it still hurts a little. Shubai laughed heartily. Upon seeing this, Zhang Yushan was about to return the real temptation fruit. But Shubai righteously refused. There's no reason to take back something that has already been given away. Elder Zhang, please accept it. After all, the stronger you are, the safer our Medicine King sect will be. Hearing this, Zhang Yushan nodded and accepted the real temptation fruit. Then, she excused herself to go into seclusion to cultivate. Yushan. Lu San looked at her back, hesitating to speak. But Zhang Yushan didn't turn her head back and ignored him. At this time, Shubai looked at Fang Ziji again. Since researching the end disc has been fruitless, then being idle is also being idle. Elder Fang might as well take this opportunity to help me strengthen the Medicine King True Cauldron. Fang Ziji's face fell. If you satisfy me, then it's not impossible for me to find someone to buy a open black lens bracket Great Dao Fruit close black lens bracket. Great Dao Fruit was the name Shubai fabricated for the open black lens bracket Real Temptation Fruit close black lens bracket. Fang Ziji's eyes lit up, and he said repeatedly, Sect Master, don't worry, leave it to me, old Fang. Actually, when you instructed me before, I already had a plan in mind for how to strengthen the Medicine King True Cauldron. But due to the limitations of time and materials, I haven't done anything yet. Shubai said with a smile, Elder Fang, you can rest assured now. Tell me what materials you need. He stretched out his palm, and the Medicine King True Cauldron kept spinning on it. After all, the disciples of our Medicine King sect are still inside, so of course, we have to consider their safety, Shubai said meaningfully. Lu San's eyes lingered on the Medicine King True Cauldron for a long time. It wasn't until Shubai followed Fang Ziji to the refining room that he reluctantly withdrew his gaze. The expression on his face was strange, and it was unknown what he was thinking. Heavenly Power State. After a long period of data processing, Li Fan had parsed out all the content of the open black lens bracket limitless emptiness and fullness art close black lens bracket. After trying to operate the divine power, Li Fan was still wondering if he could use it to eliminate Mr. Bai's influence on himself. Unfortunately, either because the upper limit of the divine power was not enough, or because he had already been polluted by Mr. Bai and it was too late to remedy the situation. When Li Fan called out open black lens bracket return to truth close black lens bracket, all kinds of reluctant emotions swept over him again. Bursting out all at once, he couldn't help but quickly close the return to truth panel. It seems I was thinking too much. Li Fan, who had failed several times, didn't take it to heart. After memorizing the content of the open black lens bracket limitless emptiness and fullness art close black lens bracket, he didn't continue to cultivate it. Instead, he temporarily put it aside. He took out the disintegration disk. At this time, the disintegration disk was a bit more crystal clear than before. 9 disks compete for supremacy, 7 have been eliminated. Now, only I and one other unknown competitor remain. Li Fan played with the warm and jade-like disintegration disk, pondering secretly. In his previous spare time, he had poured all the formations he knew, except for the open black lens bracket reversing life and death formation close black lens bracket and the open black lens bracket heavenly mystery spirit locking formation close black lens bracket, into it. And he also felt that the disintegration disk in his hand was much stronger than the remaining one. Even if he no longer fed it with formation data and let it iterate naturally, it will win the final victory. The other side seems to have resigned and given up struggling. It's just a pity that I don't have enough time. Li Fan shook his head slightly. He didn't choose to pour the last formation data into it. If the heavenly mystery secondary body is still within the sensing range of the heavenly mystery mirror, then this is also my trump card. I wonder, after upgrading, which is stronger, the heavenly mystery mirror or the resurrected Mr. Bai? A cold glint flashed in Li Fan's eyes. He wanted to seek survival in death, so naturally, he had to take it from chaos. Just like when the crimson flame burning sea and ink kill descended in this world, in order to prevent people from deducing the main body through the clone and completely confirm the death of the clone. Of course, the more chaotic, the better. There are too many secretly hidden existences in the Xuanwang world, only by letting them fight each other can their vision be slightly obscured. Actually, there is another way to get rid of Mr. Bai's influence. That is to directly eliminate the cause of open black lens bracket attachment close black lens bracket. For example, if you are greedy for a complete disintegration disk, then unlock its complete form. For example, if you are reluctant to part with the end disk that can completely shield the heavenly mystery treasure mirror, then research the possible results as soon as possible. It's just a pity, it's only theoretically possible. So-called insatiable desires. 784. The first step of 1,000 miles, 6,000 monthly tickets plus more. Perhaps, reaching the legendary state of being without desires or wants would allow one to ignore Mr. Bai's corruption. But then again, if one truly had no desire for anything, then they wouldn't be so demanding of open black lens bracket returning to truth close black lens bracket. Li Fan slightly shook his head, casting these unrealistic thoughts to the back of his mind. He lightly tapped his index finger, fixing the dissolving disc in midair. Then, Li Fan retrieved 8 white, shimmering crystals from his storage ring. In a moment of crisis, wanting to attract the attention of the celestial mystery mirror by injecting formations into the dissolving disk, there definitely won't be enough time for me to do it slowly. I need to prepare in advance. Thinking this, Li Fan narrowed his eyes and began to inject the information of the open black lens bracket great reversal of life and death formation close black lens bracket into these 8 shimmering crystals. These crystals were similar to formation crowns, called formation crystals. They could record and preserve formations, but formation crowns could be reused multiple times, while formation crystals were only one-time use. Each formation crystal was engraved with a portion of the formation. Then, manipulated by Li Fan, they hovered around the dissolving disk. With just a thought, these formation crystals will explode simultaneously, injecting the formation information into the dissolving disk. Li Fan looked at the 8 flickering white crystals and set up another formation to restrain them, preventing accidents. Next was the open black lens bracket celestial mystery locking spirit formation close black lens bracket. After completing these repetitive actions, the dissolving disk, surrounded by 16 shimmering crystals, was no longer recognizable. Li Fan carefully stored it separately in a blank storage ring. It's still uncertain whether the celestial mystery sub-body is still related to the celestial mystery mirror. This is just a backup plan. I still need to make thorough preparations and fight with all my might. Leaving the secret room, Li Fan first went to the 1,000-mile hall in Tianquan City. This place was deserted, and even the signboard was hanging crookedly. Zhao Shuyuan hadn't even come out to fix it. I heard before that the 1,000-mile hall's business had plummeted, and it's true. Li Fan thought to himself, striding inside. Due to the gradual popularization of the celestial mystery treasure mirror, even if cultivators were separated by dozens of states, they could still trade without barriers. Anytime, anywhere, trading was almost without any restrictions. Moreover, due to the public availability of various information, the prices of all goods were almost transparent. This was a dimensional strike for merchants like Zhao Shuyuan. Countless shops disappeared almost overnight. Fortunately, Zhao Shuyuan's business was only for cultivation. As long as he didn't lose money, it wasn't a big problem. True profit wasn't a matter of life and death for him. But clearly, suddenly losing the foundation of his cultivation, Zhao Shuyuan wasn't feeling so good either. What should I do? Zhao Shuyuan lay listlessly behind the dusty wooden counter, muttering in a low voice. He was so engrossed in thought that he didn't even notice someone had walked in. Li Fan knocked gently. Zhao Shuyuan immediately jumped up in a start. A customer. He stared at Li Fan suspiciously, with a look of disbelief on his face. Li Fan slowly sized up Zhao Shuyuan's puppet body, making the other party feel somewhat horrified. You, Zhao Shuyuan said with some suspicion. Fellow Taoist Zhao, I wonder if you're selling this puppet body. The price is negotiable, Li Fan said with a smile. Zhao Shuyuan's expression changed drastically, and he slammed the table, about to speak harshly, but suddenly stopped. He stared intently at the thing Li Fan was secretly taking out. This is, with his vast knowledge, he recognized the aura similar to the celestial mystery mirror at a glance. A celestial mystery sub-body. Zhao Shuyuan was shocked. The total number of celestial mystery sub-bodies in the entire Xuanwang world was definitely no more than 50. Each had a unique function, and they were basically priceless. No cultivator would ever take them out to sell. Information about different celestial mystery sub-bodies flashed through Zhao Shuyuan's mind, but none matched the one in front of him. Zhao Shuyuan's heart pounded. He waved his hand to close the shop door and greeted Li Fan with unparalleled enthusiasm. Easy, easy, it's just a puppet body, no problem. I just don't know what exactly this is in fellow Taoist's hand. Zhao Shuyuan lowered his voice and tried to ask. Li Fan also answered very readily. A celestial mystery sub-body, the Disc of Termination. It can shield the perception of the celestial mystery mirror and the celestial mystery treasure mirror. When Zhao Shuyuan heard Li Fan's first sentence, his eyes lit up. But when Li Fan said the second sentence, he shuddered violently. He subconsciously looked around and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Is this true? But soon, he revealed his true colors. A hint of greed flashed in his eyes, and Zhao Shuyuan wanted to reach out and touch it. To his surprise, Li Fan didn't stop him from touching this treasure at all. Instead, he allowed him to take the Disc of Termination in his hand. Zhao Shuyuan looked at the white jade-like disc with some doubt. He turned it over and over. After a moment, his face showed surprise. He grabbed it tightly and stared up at the inscrutable Li Fan. Fellow Taoist, Li Fan reached out and interrupted him. Fellow Taoist Zhao, what do you think this is worth? Incalculable. The stronger the celestial mystery mirror, the more urgent the demand for this thing from cultivators, and the higher the value. Zhao Shuyuan blurted out. What price does fellow Taoist want to sell it for? Zhao Shuyuan certainly didn't think that the other party would take out such a precious treasure just for his puppet body. He quickly asked. In an instant, he had already figured out how to survive in the future. That was to take the path of high-quality, monopolized goods. Aren't commodity information public? If I'm the only one in the world who has this thing, isn't the price still up to me? Plus, I have shops all over the world, with unparalleled publicity capabilities. If every high-quality product is sold by auction, although the business scale will be smaller, the profits may not only be unaffected, but may even be further improved. Zhao Shuyuan's mind was full of the future. But Li Fan's words brought him back to reality. Didn't I make it very clear? Fellow Taoist's puppet body. Li Fan's indifferent words left Zhao Shuyuan somewhat dumbfounded. Since he was suspicious, could it be that I misjudged it? Is this thing actually a fake? Zhao Shuyuan secretly observed the disc of termination in his hand again. Fellow Taoist Zhao doesn't need to worry, the effect of this thing is definitely not a problem. So, my request may be a bit special, Li Fan said in a faint voice. Zhao Shuyuan's face changed uncertainly. But as Li Fan continued to transmit his voice, he became somewhat stunned. Then he nodded repeatedly. The two talked for a long time in the 1,000-mile hall. Then Li Fan left quietly without taking back the disc of termination. He also didn't take away the puppet body. There will be 2 more normal chapters later. I've already added 3 bonus chapters for the monthly votes, why are there still people asking me to add 5 chapters? 785. Drawing the Heavenly Marrow at Will. Chongsheng Valley, inside the weapon refinement chamber. Shu Bai was supervising Fang Ziji reinforce the Medicine King True Cauldron. Sect Master, the amount of heavenly materials and earthly treasures added is already more than enough. I estimate that even when the Medicine King True Cauldron was initially forged, they didn't use so many rare materials. It's really a bit of a waste. Are you going to use it to withstand the attack of the Chengsheng Celestial Venerable? Fang Ziji said with some heartache. But under Shu Bai's resolute and decisive gaze, he still threw a small ball of eternal calamity essence gold into the earth fire in front of him. Under his strenuous manipulation, it took more than 10 days of burning before the eternal calamity essence gold slightly loosened and deformed. Then, under his careful manipulation with his mind, he fitted and integrated it into the surface of the Medicine King True Cauldron. Shu Bai nodded in satisfaction upon seeing this. He then took out some black powder and handed it over. Fang Ziji breathed a sigh of relief, but was startled again when he saw the thing in Shu Bai's hand. This thing, why can't divine sense perceive it? Shu Bai smiled slightly. It's right if divine sense can't detect it. Please, Mr. Fang, cover the surface of the Medicine King True Cauldron with this material. If it's not enough, I have more here. Being able to shield divine sense perception, this thing shouldn't be cheap, Fang Ziji muttered, still doing as Shu Bai asked. The earth fire kept jumping, reflecting the expression on Shu Bai's face, sometimes bright and sometimes dim. Beast Seed Realm, 3,000 feet underground. Li Fan, who had quietly returned, dug out a secret room, then sealed it off and concealed it with formations. Afterward, he took out a metal melting furnace and placed it on the ground in front of him. Myriad Form Furnace. Although it may not really be able to melt out the Emperor One Beast, the appearance of such a powerful monster in the Xuanwang realm will surely attract Senior Brother Zhang's Grand Vow Dharma body. Moreover, I don't need to consider how to control it after melting out that myriad form ancestral beast. On the contrary, the more crazy it is, the better. It can save a lot of thought. Li Fan thought to himself. The myriad form melting beast naturally needs enough varieties of exotic beasts. Coincidentally, Li Fan has them here. Not what the Empire traded to him this time, but what he obtained during his first transaction with Shaoqing in this life. It is the sealed life treasure box. Li Fan took out a red square wooden box. It was only the size of a palm, but it was divided into tens of thousands of different spaces inside. Each space was filled with a frozen exotic beast. Let's start with the weaker ones first. According to the method taught by Shaoqing, Li Fan's heart moved, and he took out dozens of exotic beasts that were no bigger than a palm from the treasure box. The moment they left the frozen space, they began to awaken. Li Fan's spiritual power vibrated slightly, and these exotic beasts didn't have time to react before they were killed one after another. Their flesh and blood were instantly decomposed into the smallest particles, but still maintained the original appearance of their bodies, and were thrown into the metal melting furnace by Li Fan. As if recognizing the entry of the exotic beast's flesh and blood, the circle of complex exotic beast patterns around the furnace slowly lit up. I heard that the Empire also referred to the relevant information of the Beast Control Sect's treasure, Myriad Beast Wheel, when forging this thing. The Beast Control Sect is hidden in the Spirit Void realm. I wonder when it will be discovered by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Li Fan pondered while throwing the exotic beasts from the sealed life treasure box into the myriad form furnace. As the number of exotic beasts thrown in increased, Li Fan also felt some kind of mysterious power being generated within it. He couldn't help but become a little dignified. 10 days later. Whether it was Li Fan or the clone Shu Bai, they suddenly stopped their movements. A strange look appeared on their faces at the same time. Successfully formed the nascent soul. But it's actually such an inconspicuous cave heaven. Just now, the holy embryo Shu Bai wandered the Xuanwang continent and finally felt something in his heart. He found the cave heaven that was most suitable for him. However, somewhat beyond Li Fan's expectations, this cave heaven was not comparable to his 5 elements grand cave heaven. Even ordinary single-attribute cave heavens were far inferior. This was because this cave heaven was only the size of a square inch, and the surrounding area was a dark and chaotic void. Only a barren piece of yellow land stood in the void, allowing people to stand on it. Sharing the same divine sense, Li Fan could clearly feel that this cave heaven was indeed nothing special. The reason why the holy embryo Shubai chose it was simply because it had just been born. Interesting. I can just see how Mr. Bai uses the new method to transform into a god. When the world is about to change, what will you choose? While secretly preparing for a desperate gamble, Li Fan separated a wisp of consciousness and carefully observed the natural behavior of the holy embryo Shubai. The holy embryo Shubai's divine sense transformed into a phantom, standing on the yellow land of the nascent cave heaven. He didn't dislike it, but had a slight joy on his face. He personally conjured water and irrigated the barren land. Then, specks of green light flew out of him. Before long, some green seedlings broke out of the soil. The first ray of life appeared in the cave heaven. Afterward, there were trickling streams surrounding these plants. Under the vitality, this cave heaven also began to expand towards the surrounding void. Li Fan watched the changes in his eyes, thoughtfully. Creating a brand new cave heaven from scratch. It can be completely tailored according to one's own ideas. Compared to relying on luck to go out and find one, it is indeed better. But cave heavens are not like mortals. Their growth period is calculated in thousands or tens of thousands of years. This is still in the most ideal state. I have formed the nascent soul for so long in this life, but that 5 elements cave heaven is still just a prototype. This shows how difficult it is for cave heavens to grow. Do you want to slowly wait for it to grow up? That's good news for me. Li Fan thought so, but the holy embryo Shubai's methods were far beyond his imagination. Catching him off guard and making him feel a little more urgency in his heart. After forming the nascent soul, the holy embryo Shubai strolled leisurely in the Xuanlong realm. After stopping in a certain state, he gently stretched out his hand towards the sky. Then, some mysterious changes seemed to have occurred between heaven and earth. It was as if something was extracted by the holy embryo Shubai out of thin air, and then casually put into his own cave heaven. Rumble. In the cave heaven, the roar continued. A mountain range rose from the ground in the blink of an eye. The cave heaven was undergoing earth-shaking changes at a speed tens of millions of times faster than usual. This is extracting heaven's marrow, so relaxed and freehand, without having to worry about the backlash of heaven and earth. Moreover, witnessing this scene, Li Fan's eyes suddenly shrank. What made him feel even more horrified was that the holy embryo Shubai walked to the next state, observed it for a moment. Then shot again. Another change of the world about to be born was quietly taken out. Without even attracting the discovery of other cultivators. Within the holy embryo Shubai's own cave heaven, anomalies were born again. There is another chapter to be updated tomorrow at noon. This life is coming to an end, and I need to think carefully. Please vote for monthly tickets. Double monthly tickets continue until the 7th of next month. Still 2,000 words plus 1 chapter. 786. The Power of World Resurrection. The original trickling stream instantly transformed into a raging river. Along with it, the blessed land of the cave rapidly expanded once more. Nourished by the abundant river water, the vegetation within the cave also flourished. Trees rose from the ground, lush and verdant. Tianyu's life-giving river. Li Fan looked at the sacred embryo Shubai and nodded with some satisfaction. Afterward, he left the cave and once again traveled through the Xuanlong realm. Like a mortal traveler, his feet measured the land. Whenever he encountered a transformation suitable for his own life force, he would incorporate it into his cave, as if picking herbs. After the initial shock, seeing it often, he became somewhat numb and accustomed to it. Li Fan had read many insights from nascent soul cultivators transforming into gods. They all said that the transformations of life in the world were like the meridians in a mortal body, extremely difficult to find without special means. Moreover, once extracted, it would inevitably cause a great commotion, shaking the heavens and the earth. But all this conventional wisdom was ineffective on the sacred embryo Shubai. He only needed to squint and observe for a moment to determine whether there was a transformation of heaven and earth. Then, he would slowly beckon, as if summoning a gentle breeze in the world. Silently, he would take it for his own. as more and more changes and innovations were integrated into the cave. The sacred embryo Shubai's own cave was also renewed daily. Mountains, ravines, plains, rivers, forests. The cave world was full of life and diverse phenomena, resembling a small world constantly growing. However, the sacred embryo Shubai frowned very rarely. Something is still missing. This vitality is just an illusion and cannot support its own perfect cycle. Without external injection, this forced growth of the cave will soon slowly return to desolation. Li Fan sensed what the other party was thinking. The sacred embryo Shubai flew into the air, looking around in all directions, gazing into the distance. Thus, he looked for a whole day. Then, a smile appeared on his face. Unhurried, he took a step and rushed towards his destination. From Li Fan's perspective, the speed of the sacred embryo Shubai was not actually fast. He didn't even use his own spiritual power, simply relying on his physical body to move forward. However, in the eyes of outsiders, it was actually 1,000 miles in one step, disappearing in an instant. It's not that I'm moving, but that the world is actively cooperating, shortening the distance. Shrinking the earth into inches, to facilitate travel. Li Fan carefully comprehended the changes in the surrounding world during his steps, and a hint of understanding suddenly surged into his heart. Although this time, I was reborn by borrowing the body of Mr. Bai, it is actually a great fortune. Every undiscovered transformation of life means the supreme wealth that can create a powerful God transformation expert. Moreover, every move of the sacred embryo Shubai is in harmony with the world. All can be regarded as divine powers. For example, the green vitality that promotes the growth of the cave, the freehand extraction of the marrow of the heavens, and the shrinking of the earth into inches at this moment. With my comprehension, it would be fortunate to understand one thing in one reincarnation. But at this moment, they are coming one after another. What's even more commendable is that all kinds of magical powers are displayed with the help of my body and perception, just like I'm using them myself. With a little pondering in the future, it may not be impossible to perfectly replicate them. Provided, there is a next life. The thousands of thoughts in Li Fan's mind stopped abruptly as the sacred embryo Shubai finally reached the end of his journey. This is, the Kongyan Sea. Li Fan was shocked in his heart as he came back to his senses. Almost 10 years have passed since Mo Sha destroyed the world. Although this place is still a scene of the end of the world. The originally violent lava is no longer erupting, but is gradually cooling down, forming a hard black stone. The spatial voids that nod like Zhu Chong everywhere have also healed long ago, I don't know when. At first glance, the old site of Kongyan Sea is still full of death. But in the subtle sense, it seems that a different kind of power is being nurtured. Of course, this is only possible for Li Fan to perceive with the help of the sacred embryo Shubai's unique and supreme qualifications. If other cultivators come here, I'm afraid they will only feel fatal crises coming one after another, fearing to avoid them. The sacred embryo Shubai stared at the ruins for a long time, but before entering the Kongyan Sea, he first glanced in the direction of Yuandao Prefecture. A feeling of resentment, fear, and worry suddenly surged into his heart. For the first time, the sacred embryo Shubai showed negative emotions on his face. With a cold snort, he turned his head and slowly stepped into the Kongyan Sea. Unlike the emotions generated when he caught a glimpse of Yuandao Prefecture, the emotions generated in the heart of the sacred embryo Shubai while walking in these ruins were surprisingly complex. This is a feeling made up of multiple emotions intersecting and merging. For a moment, Li Fan couldn't tell what kind of feeling it actually was. However, soon, Li Fan's attention was focused on the actions in the hands of the sacred embryo Shubai. Obviously, the purpose of his trip was to be able to improve the transformation of life in his own cave. I saw that he was not as casual as before. Instead, he was rarely a little solemn. Taking his hand as a pen, his figure flew and roamed, drawing a line between the virtual and the real, between heaven and earth. The lines are continuous, from the western origin of Yuandao, the coastal border of Shilin Prefecture, to the edge of the endless ocean. In just over half a day, the approximate range of the original Kongyan Sea was circled. It's just that the outline is strangely shaped, and it is much smaller than the original Kongyan Sea land. After the virtual and real lines closed, they suddenly flashed and disappeared into the world. Then, the sacred embryo Shubai took a deep breath. He stretched out his hand to grab the invisible circle, and then slowly used force. As the circle was continuously collected into his hands, it seemed that something was also being slowly pulled out from the Kongyan Sea world. Li Fan concentrated his spirit, not wanting to miss any details. The crystal of the stone of transformation in his mind emitted a dazzling blue light, recording all kinds of insights from the sacred embryo Shubai, without any detail. Initially, the sacred embryo Shubai was still relatively relaxed when collecting the line. But the more it went on, the stronger the reaction force from the void seemed to be. Each time he converged, he needed to use almost all the strength of his body. The thin line that he had accumulated in his palm changed from virtual to real. The touch was like a warm spring breeze, and like ice silk. The sacred embryo Shubai's eyes were firm, and the line collection was decisive. As more and more circles were drawn out, the originally calm Kangyan Sea ruins suddenly changed. Boom! The black and red magma that had previously subsided erupted violently again. One black wriggling void after another, like countless small insects, appeared densely. The terrifying aura of the end of the world suddenly descended. This is, Li Fan's pupils shrank sharply. The Kangyan Sea, which is about to recover, has turned back into a dead place. What is being extracted is the power that drives the world's recovery. The surroundings have returned to a living hell, but the actions of the sacred embryo Shubai still did not hesitate in the slightest. His expression was without sorrow or joy. To make up for yesterday's. 787. Looking forward to the next life and the rules of May, please vote. This world should conclude during the May Day holiday. For those who are stockpiling chapters, it's time to start reading. During the double monthly ticket period, it's still one extra chapter for every 2,000 tickets. After the double monthly ticket period ends, it will be one extra chapter for every 1,000 tickets. Please support me with monthly tickets. 788. Tian Dao Stone. 3 days later, the Kangyan Sea returned to the state it was in just after being utterly annihilated by Inkkill. Lava raged, and holes were everywhere. The coil in holy embryo Shubai's hand emitted bursts of crystalline white light, disappearing from the Xuanlong realm. Appearing in his own cave heaven. Transforming into drops of spring rain, falling upon the earth. Thereupon, Li Fan saw signs of animal life beginning to appear in the mountains, lakes, and forests within the cave heaven. Without any prior warning, fish, birds, and beasts suddenly emerged from various places. Only with the addition of various living beings did true vitality begin to manifest in the cave heaven world. Under normal evolution, such a thing would never happen without hundreds of millions of years. But with the blessing of the world's recovery power, it happened in the blink of an eye. This move is truly miraculous. Li Fan couldn't help but sigh with emotion. One must know that in the previous life, the 5 elements Great Cave Heaven, which had been gestating for who knows how many years, primarily contained plants. It was still a very long way from officially becoming a world. But the cave heaven within holy embryo Shubai's body achieved this in a short period of time. After emerging from the Kangyan Sea, he still didn't stop harvesting the changes that were about to occur in heaven and earth. However, subsequent work was more akin to patching and repairing, and there were no more earth-shattering changes within the cave heaven. Only in those unnoticed corners did various changes quietly take place. I can't learn this, I can't learn this. Li Fan kept recalling holy embryo Shubai's actions of extracting recovery power. Even though he personally experienced the entire process, he was still completely clueless about how the other party managed it. This had clearly surpassed the level that Li Fan could currently comprehend. Ordinary nascent soul cultivators all use their cave heavens as the foundation for their cultivation. I've never heard of anyone directly devouring a minor world. When he truly ascends to the deity transformation realm, I really don't know how powerful he will become. And with what kind of heaven and earth soul will he merge with the Tao? Li Fan actually felt a faint sense of anticipation in his heart. While holy embryo Shubai was traveling through the Xuanlong realm, there was another matter that Li Fan paid attention to. Reasonably speaking, with Shubai's appearance and temperament, no matter where he went, he should have attracted the attention of other cultivators. Coupled with his actions of seizing the impending changes in heaven and earth along the way, he should have drawn significant attention. But precisely, all the cultivators he encountered along the way completely ignored him. As if they couldn't see holy embryo Shubai at all. Hidden among the masses in broad daylight. This kind of divine ability is quite suitable for me. It seems to be integrated into everything in heaven and earth. After a long while, Li Fan said thoughtfully. Holy embryo Shubai was about to ascend to deity transformation, while Li Fan was also on the verge of refining the Emperor One Beast. In the life-sealing treasure box, all the frozen exotic beasts had been fully invested. Li Fan even added the flesh and blood of the crimson nine-headed and the vital blood of the Kunpang. Boom, boom, above the myriad forms furnace, all the exotic beast patterns erupted with dazzling brilliance. The metal furnace shook violently, and creaking sounds came from everywhere. As if it might burst at any moment, unable to bear the strain. Another move is ready. Li Fan tapped his fingers repeatedly, setting up formations around the myriad forms furnace to temporarily seal it. And then still stored it in a separate storage ring. Next, Li Fan took out some materials and began refining mechanical puppets according to the method from Tian Yang's memories. The Chaos character art is the only means I have to possibly disrupt the Longevity Celestial Master's attention. Furthermore, it seems that the Longevity Realm experts in this world are very interested in the Chaos character art. Therefore, at that time, it won't just be me personally performing it. It must also erupt simultaneously in other different places. This is what is called, every rustle of leaves and chirp of birds indicates the enemy is coming, or, seeing every bush and tree as an enemy soldier. A sharp glint flashed in Li Fan's eyes, and in just a few days, a somewhat crude-looking black puppet was refined. It had no intelligence to speak of, and its function was extremely singular. That was, at the critical moment, to execute the predetermined command, unaffected by any external objects or even Li Fan himself. The Chaos character art is extremely difficult to perform, even for my main body. Let alone these puppets, only by me separating the strokes of the character Chaos. At that time, the puppets will combine them into a complete divine ability. If it were the full power of Chaos, I fear I wouldn't have the strength to separate it. However, if I don't seek power and only aim to imitate its chaotic aura, it might be worth a try. Li Fan's mind was split into several uses, supervising and recording Holy Embryo Shubai's activities. While continuously refining puppets with his hands, he was also contemplating the method to decompose the Chaos character art. Fortunately, with the secret art Dao Transformation Divine One, although there were many tasks, they were not chaotic. Longevity Valley. Zhang Yushan unleashed a black malevolent aura with all her might, which landed on the newly refined Medicine King True Cauldron, but was easily blocked by the black ethereal light blooming around it. Zhang Yushan frowned slightly, while Fang Ziji was smug. Sect Master, how do you find my old Fang's craftsmanship? This new cauldron is truly sturdy. I'm afraid even if the three of us joined forces, we couldn't cause it any damage. This is just based on its own sturdy material. If we truly activate the formations within it for full defense, perhaps it could even withstand the attacks of the Longevity Celestial Master. It's also thanks to your generosity, Sect Master, sparing no cost on various heavenly materials and earthly treasures. In my life, I've never been so extravagant when refining artifacts, Fang Ziji said with some emotion. Shu Bai, who had just tested the hardness of the Medicine King True Cauldron, was very satisfied. Elder Fang, you've worked hard. I heard that recently, the minor world where the Tian sect is located has officially joined the Myriad Immortals Alliance. To highlight its exemplary role, they are even allowing Alliance cultivators to visit for free. Since Elder Fang has worked hard on refining artifacts, why don't you come with me to see what the situation is like? Shu Bai said to Fang Ziji with a smile. As he spoke, he ignored the glance Lu San cast his way and directly put away the Medicine King True Cauldron, which had become somewhat darkened. The Tian sect, Fang Ziji hesitated slightly. They are somewhat difficult to deal with. Back then, I was constantly being hunted, never having a peaceful day. It was a Tian sect disciple who took action and deduced my hiding place. Shu Bai chuckled. That's all in the past. Now that they've joined the Myriad Immortals Alliance and have no grievances with Elder Fang, why would they hunt you? After Shu Bai said this, Fang Ziji became a little eager. I heard that their Tian sect has a treasure called the Dao Transformation Stone Mother. Inside, the illusions are extremely lifelike, and astonishingly, it deduced another real world purely through inference. I've heard its name for a long time, but have never had the chance to see it. Shu Bai's eyes flashed. Heh, I've heard of it too. This item is the Tian sect's ultimate treasure, and I'm afraid it's not that easy to see. Whether we can feast our eyes on it this trip will entirely depend on fate. I had a bit to drink today, and my thoughts are a bit sluggish. There's another chapter that will be updated later. The bonus chapters for 8,000 and 10,000 monthly votes will be tomorrow during the day, everyone rest assured. 789. The Simulated Road of Dao. Shu Bai looked at Lu San, who was silent beside him, and suddenly turned to ask, "Old Lu, are you going with us? You are knowledgeable and experienced, so you can help me keep an eye on things. See if surrendering to the Myriad Immortals Alliance is reliable. Is it possible that the Tian sect is colluding with the Myriad Immortals Alliance to deceive us?" Shu Bai was full of sincerity. But Lu San was silent for a moment, then shook his head and refused. "It's better for you and Old Fang to go. In terms of vision, he is definitely not inferior to me. In these troubled times, many disciples in the Longevity Valley still need someone to take care of them. Although the entrance is shielded by the perpetual disk, we cannot rule out the possibility of cultivators accidentally entering." "Old Lu, you finally told the truth." Fang Ziji seemed a little happy about Lu San's affirmation. But soon he looked at the other party suspiciously. "You wouldn't be wanting to take advantage of this rare opportunity to be alone with Yushan, would you?" "Don't talk nonsense," Lu San said angrily. After a bit of banter, Shu Bai and Fang Ziji left the Longevity Valley and went straight to the Tian sect. The entrance to the small world is located in Taihua Prefecture. Along the way, you can see many cultivators who have heard the news and are also going to watch the excitement. And very rarely, there are cultivators within the Immortal Alliance system guiding the way along the way. Obviously, they want to use the Tian sect's surrender as a model to promote it. Taihua Prefecture is located in the eastern region of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, not far from the Kongyan Sea. A mountain range runs through the entire territory, with thousands of peaks standing tall. Among them, the 9 peaks are the highest, and are called the 9 Taihua Veins by cultivators. In fact, it used to be the 10 Taihua Veins. However, one of them, Mount Taishu, suddenly collapsed and disappeared from people's memories. From then on, it became 9 veins. In a previous life, He Zhenghao had also thought about going to Taihua Prefecture for further studies, but later, under Li Fan's intervention, he went to Tianyan Prefecture. Following the guidance, the two arrived at Mount Taishuan. This entrance is hidden quite secretly, actually in the middle of the mountain. It's completely natural. If the Myriad Immortals Alliance hadn't opened up this passage, it would take some effort to get in. Fang Ziji was a little surprised. They walked along the winding passage inside the mountain to the end. The space channel has been solidified and opened. Several Tian sect cultivators stood at the entrance, ostensibly welcoming guests. However, looking at their eyes constantly scanning the visiting cultivators, it seemed like they were looking for something. Could it be that those little brats from back then are not dead yet? Fang Ziji muttered to himself. Shu Bai saw his suddenly hesitant expression and knew what he was worried about. He coughed lightly to remind him and took the lead to walk forward. Seeing this, Fang Ziji had no choice but to follow closely. When the Tian sect cultivators saw Shu Bai walking towards them, their eyes lit up and they surrounded him. "This fellow Taoist, please stop. I wonder if you are interested in joining our Tian sect. After joining the sect, you will not only have no worries about cultivation techniques, but you can even get a medium-grade transformation Dao stone for free." They spoke all at once, very enthusiastically. For a time, it attracted the attention of other cultivators. "Tian sect fellow Taoists, look at me. I want to join the Tian sect. Why are you only surrounding him? Just because he's good-looking?" The cultivators were a little dissatisfied, but the Tian sect people didn't pay any attention to them. They only stared at Shu Bai. Shu Bai didn't agree, nor did he refuse outright. Instead, he tentatively asked about the current relationship between the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the Tian sect. The Tian sect cultivators answered everything they knew. It's just hanging the name of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, and then sending a fusion Dao elder to the Immortal Alliance headquarters to sit there every year. In general, it's no different from before. Within this Taishuan realm, our Tian sect still has the final say. The Immortal Alliance will not interfere. Think about it, how many blessed lands and small worlds are under the rule of the Myriad Immortals Alliance? It doesn't matter if there is one more or one less. On the contrary, with the Myriad Immortals Alliance's Heavenly Mystery Treasure Mirror, Heavenly Mystery Mirror, and other things, our daily cultivation is much more convenient. Seeing that Shu Bai seemed a little interested, they immediately tried harder to persuade him. They even took the initiative to lead the way, leading him to visit the scenery in this Taishuan small world. Thousands of miles of fertile land, with countless mortals living there. In the distance, in the clouds, there is a floating city, floating above the clouds. You can vaguely see many cultivators shuttling in the city. The concentration of spiritual energy in this small world is no longer lower than that of ordinary areas in the profound yellow realm. You were able to find such a good place to take refuge back then. Fang Ziji said with some envy. The Tian sect cultivators were collectively stunned. Then they realized that back then, that Fang Ziji was talking about was when the law cannot be practiced together great calamity descended. That's natural, we are good at deduction. Naturally, we can find a glimmer of life from the crisis of destruction. In fact, looking at the age of these young disciples, they may not be clear about what happened back then. They were just deliberately boasting in order to persuade Shubai to join the sect. Logically speaking, your Tian sect's conditions for accepting disciples are so generous, you shouldn't be short of people. Why is it that as soon as you see me, you? Shubai deliberately asked. Could it be, it really is because I'm good looking? Several Tian sect cultivators looked at each other, and finally a slightly older cultivator answered Shubai's question. Our Tian sect doesn't accept just anyone. The most important thing is to conform to the several appearances provided by the Transformation Dao Stone Mother. After briefly explaining the Transformation Dao Stone Mother, he continued, cultivators who conform to the appearance, in the Stone Mother's deduction, are either the future backbone of the sect, or the pillar that can revitalize the Tian sect, or the unparalleled leader who can lead the Tian sect out of the crisis. In short, it's all beneficial and harmless. Absolutely no mistakes. They said confidently, obviously very trusting of the Transformation Dao Stone Mother's deduction results. Oh, this Stone Mother is so magical. I wonder if I can see it with my own eyes. Shubai asked following their words. As long as you join our Tian sect, you can personally meet the Stone Mother. And, it is very likely that you will get a chance for simulation. The middle-aged cultivator patted his chest and guaranteed. Simulation, Shubai narrowed his eyes. Even Fang Ziji was instantly attracted. As I told you before, in the Transformation Dao Stone Mother, there is another almost real deduction world. And if you get its permission, you can use its power to create a virtual world tailored for you. In this virtual world, you will experience everything you are about to experience. Although it cannot guarantee 100% accuracy, but being able to foresee the future is enough to make the person who experiences the simulation take many fewer detours. The middle-aged cultivator's tone was full of envy. It's a pity that I failed the test last time and lost a once-in-a-century opportunity. Are you saying that this Transformation Dao Stone Mother has actually developed its own intelligence? Fang Ziji asked in surprise. 790. No one in Tian, 8,000 monthly tickets plus more. Look at what you're saying, the Tian sect cultivator glanced at Fang Ziji. So many years have passed, even a monkey would have become an expert by now. Let alone our Transformation Dao Stone Mother. They scoffed at Fang Ziji's doubts. However, Fang Ziji winked at Shubai and transmitted his voice. Sect Master, something's strange. I remember that back then, the Tian sect was very wary of the Transformation Dao Stone Mother developing self-awareness. After all, a cultivator's lifespan is limited, while the Transformation Dao Stone Mother's lifespan is infinite. If it really develops intelligence, it's really hard to say who exactly has the final say in this Tian sect. We should still be careful. Fang Ziji reminded him. Shubai nodded slightly, but on the surface, he remained calm. He then pretended to be very curious and asked, to be honest, since we've come from so far away, we actually know a little about your Tian sect. Tian divine calculation, although it can deduce the future through endless calculations, it also needs initial data support. You've been hiding in this Taizan realm for thousands of years, isolated from the world. The Xuanwang realm has already undergone earth-shattering changes. How can you guarantee the accuracy of your deduction results? The middle-aged Tian sect cultivator was quite surprised to hear Shubai's words. Then, the joy on his face grew even more. So you also have some understanding of the Tao of deduction. It seems you really are a destined person of my Tian sect. As for what you're worried about, he said with some smugness, who said that our Tian sect has been isolated from the world for thousands of years? In fact, every once in a while, the sect will send out specialists to scout out all kinds of information about the Xuanwang realm, in order to revise the Stone Mother's deduction results. Otherwise, the Myriad Immortals Alliance's conquest of the Myriad Realms wouldn't have been over for too long. If we hadn't anticipated it long ago, how could we have reacted so quickly? Revision, is it? So that's how it is. Shubai nodded thoughtfully. All right, I've told you so much. Are you willing to join our Tian sect or not? At this time, everyone had almost flown to the outside of the floating city in the sky. Among the Tian sect disciples, a short, hunched cultivator finally became a little impatient. I'm actually a little tempted. Shu Bai stroked his chin. Fang Ziji, who was on the side, immediately glanced at him. Upon hearing this, the Tian sect disciples couldn't help but reveal joyful expressions. However, I still have some concerns. Actually, before coming here, I had already joined another sect. And because of certain special reasons, I can't leave. I wonder if you mind. Shu Bai said very sincerely. Huh, the Tian sect disciples collectively froze, and even their flying bodies suddenly stopped. They all turned their heads to look at Shu Bai. Are you here to cause trouble? The short cultivator was even more furious. Just as he was about to attack, he was stopped by the middle-aged cultivator reaching out his hand. When senior brother explained the mission, he didn't say that this wouldn't work. He pondered for a moment, then carefully sized up Shu Bai again. He actually gritted his teeth and said directly, I can't make the decision on this matter either. How about this, you come back to the sect with me first. Whether it's okay or not, let senior brother decide. Shu Bai didn't expect that the Tian sect's desire to recruit disciples would actually be so strong. They could even tolerate this. However, he didn't have any fear, and nodded without hesitation. Arriving outside the floating city in the sky, Shu Bai then discovered that the entire periphery of the city was surrounded by a layer of transparent crystal as protection. When it reflected the middle-aged cultivator's face, a familiar blue light shone on the transparent crystal wall. Then, the middle-aged cultivator instantly transformed into a blue light and done into the city. The other disciples were also the same. You can just come in directly. Not far ahead, the middle-aged cultivator said through the crystal wall. Upon seeing this, Fang Ziji rushed into the city before Shu Bai. When flying and about to touch the transparent crystal wall, it seemed as if it didn't exist at all, and passed straight through without any hindrance. Fang Ziji looked around, but didn't notice anything unusual. Only then did he signal to Shu Bai that he could enter. The moment Shu Bai flew over the crystal wall, it was as if he had passed through a space composed of countless mirrors. He saw countless different versions of himself, seemingly experiencing all kinds of different events. After a moment, he returned to reality. Let's go, I'll take you to see senior brother. The middle-aged cultivator looked at Shu Bai and said with a smile. Walking in the suspended city, you could see many Tian sect cultivators around. Their cultivation levels varied, from chi refining to transformation god. There were even occasionally one or two white-bearded cultivators that made Fang Ziji's face show a solemn expression. Obviously, they were Dao harmonization cultivators. They all seemed very leisurely, some talking to each other in low voices, some preoccupied with pinching their fingers and calculating something. Some also held an item in their hands to play with, shaped like a Rubik's Cube. Judging from the constantly changing pictures on it, it seemed somewhat similar to the heavenly locked treasure box that Li Fan had found in the Yixing tomb. Seeing Shu Bai and his group passing by, they only glanced at them casually and then withdrew their gazes. They didn't pay much attention to Shu Bai's peerless appearance at all. What was even stranger was that when they greeted the few people leading the way, their addresses to each other were all like, senior brother, junior brother, and the like. Even those white-haired Dao harmonization elders were the same. Shu Bai couldn't help but frown slightly. Sect master, have you noticed anything wrong? Fang Ziji transmitted his voice quietly. It is a bit strange. The Tian sect's strength has been preserved a little too well. Just from what we've seen along the way, there are no less than a dozen Dao harmonization cultivators, right? Is the Tian sect's foundation actually so deep? Moreover, Dao harmonization powerhouses actually address chi refining cultivators as brothers. A hint of interest appeared on Shu Bai's face. It's not that. Fang Ziji's voice was a little urgent. I didn't realize it when I first came in. But now, after observing carefully for a while, I've discovered. This is a ghost place. Shu Bai's footsteps paused slightly. Ghost place. Elder Fang, what do you mean? Sect master, take a closer look at these people. They are actually not truly existent. Fang Ziji's voice was a little weak. Even this city under our feet is probably fake. Hearing Fang Ziji's reminder, Shu Bai couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Immediately, he walked slowly while carefully observing again. Shu Bai's talent was indeed among the top in the world. Upon closer inspection, he indeed noticed some anomalies. The cultivators in this suspended city, from Tao harmonization to Qi refining. The faint aura emitted from their bodies was actually all exactly the same. It was as if they were all the same person, just with a different face. At this time, the middle-aged cultivator leading the way seemed to have sensed Shubai's reaction. Suddenly, he turned his head and revealed a sinister smile. Why, does this fellow Taoist have any doubts? I wrote until 2:30 a.m. yesterday and slept all day today. I quickly got up to code. There will be 2 normal updates tonight, and I will try to write the extra update for 10,000 chapter monthly tickets. 791. Being outside the variables. However, perhaps it was just Shubai's illusion. That chilling intent vanished in an instant, and the next moment, when he looked again, the other party's face was as enthusiastic as before. It's nothing, nothing. It's just that I didn't expect your Tian sect to have so many Dao integration cultivators. I was just a little surprised. Shubai pretended to be shocked. As expected of a renowned sect from ancient times, its profound foundation is truly unimaginable, Shubai praised. Everyone loves to hear flattery. As soon as these words came out, not only the few cultivators leading the way in front, even those idle people on the roadside all cast satisfied glances. However, this further confirmed the abnormality of the Tian sect to Shubai and Fang Ziji. Because they showed that satisfied expression at the same instant. Mr. Fang, are you confident in escaping from here? Shubai asked Fang Ziji quietly while chatting with the Tian sect cultivators. Sect Master, don't worry, I'm working on a solution. This damn place has very stable space. It will take some effort to break through the void and escape, Fang Ziji replied solemnly. In matters of life and death, Fang Ziji, who was usually a bit of a playboy, finally became serious. Don't rush, let's see what's going on with this Tian sect, Shubai comforted. While the two were exchanging thoughts, they had already arrived at a strangely shaped building in the center of the city under the guidance of the Tian sect disciples. It was entirely made of blue transparent crystals. From the outside, one could clearly see that the inside was divided into rectangular spaces. In each space, there was a cultivator busy at work. This, Shubai and Fang Ziji exchanged glances. Let's go. Senior brother is already waiting inside, the middle-aged cultivator said casually. Similar to the experience of entering the Wangxian Alliance's strategy hall, Shubai stepped into this blue crystal building, only feeling that the space under his feet seemed to be moving. And the transparency of the surrounding walls gradually decreased, making it impossible to see the appearance of other places. At the same time, the decorations and furnishings in the space were constantly changing. Only the quietly standing Shubai and others remained unchanged. When the crystal wall completely transformed into the appearance of a wall, a virtual blue figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Greetings, Senior Brother Chen. The Tian sect cultivators who led the way saluted one after another. The blue light gradually solidified, and a rather handsome man revealed his true appearance. Chen Tianai. After seeing the man's appearance clearly, Fang Ziji exclaimed in shock. Everyone present was stunned for a moment. Chen Tianai glanced at Fang Ziji, seemingly not surprised by his appearance. You have completed this mission very well. Go down first, I have some words to say to this old friend, he instructed the crowd first. Not knowing what benefits they had received, the group of Tian sect cultivators who led the way were all beaming with joy. They quickly left this space. Fang Ziji had also calmed down slightly at this time, but the look of shock in his eyes still had not faded, and he kept sizing up Chen Tianai in front of him. It's definitely him. I didn't expect him to still be alive. While whispering to himself, Fang Ziji explained to Shubai through voice transmission, Chen Tianai was the #1 direct disciple of the Tian sect back then, the heir to the next sect master. However, later, for some unknown reason, he was stripped of all his identities. His whereabouts were even unknown, and he was wanted by the Tian sect. Back then, because there were Tian sect disciples involved in the pursuit of me, I could never get rid of them. It was this kid who saved me, so I was able to safely lie dormant in the Medicine King sect. I even felt a little sorry for him when he had his accident. I didn't expect. Are you a little surprised to see me? At this time, Chen Tianai said with a smile. After many years, you are still like this. No, for us, it's been thousands of years. For your Medicine King sect, it's only been a short moment. As soon as Chen Tianai opened his mouth, he revealed that the Medicine King sect had experienced the Immortal ruins and traveled through thousands of years. So, you also know that the Medicine King sect's attempt to escape with the cauldron was just courting death. Fang Ziji narrowed his eyes. I only found out about it afterwards. Otherwise, with my temperament at the time, I would have insisted on going with you. Chen Tianai's answer made Fang Ziji slightly stunned. Go with us? He couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. That's the Immortal Ruins. What exactly is inside the Immortal Ruins? Isn't Brother Fang curious? Chen Tianai asked rhetorically. How many people in the entire Xuanwang realm can witness this spectacle and return safely? Brother Fang can be said to be one of the very few lucky ones. Fang Ziji shrugged. Then you may be disappointed. Not long after entering the cauldron, I directly entered the Great Dream Spring and Autumn formation and fell asleep. Chen Tianai nodded slightly. That's something you would do. Brother Fang is truly unrestrained. At this time, Shu Bai suddenly interjected. You are very interested in the Immortal Ruins. Actually, we have recorded our experiences back then. Chen Tianai then looked at Shu Bai with some seriousness. Outside the variable, he said in a low voice, but a hint of excitement flashed in his eyes. As expected, this variable comes from the Medicine King sect. Old Chen, what are you muttering about? Fang Ziji was a little confused by what Chen Tianai said. Brother Fang, who is this? You haven't introduced him to me yet. Chen Tianai said. Ah, this is. Fang Ziji looked at Shu Bai. After receiving the other party's eye signal, he told the truth. This is our current sect master of the Medicine King sect. Shu Bai. A trace of astonishment flashed in Chen Tianai's eyes. Then he stared at Shu Bai again, staying frozen like a statue. It was only after Fang Ziji repeatedly called out that he finally came back to his senses. The interest he showed in Shu Bai grew even stronger. The sect master of the Medicine King sect actually wants to join our Tian sect. You really don't have good intentions. Chen Tianai shook his head slightly. Now the Wangxian alliance wants to sweep across the Xuanwang world. The Medicine King sect, the Tian sect, and everything else will belong to the Immortal Alliance in the future. They are all part of the Immortal Alliance, so what's the difference between sects? If you really want to talk about it, if you give enough benefits, it's not impossible for me to join your Tian sect, Shu Bai said calmly. Chen Tianai was speechless. What you said is not wrong. The era of sects is over, he said with some melancholy. But you joining our Tian sect, Chen Tianai's movement stagnated slightly again for a moment. Then, he shook his head slightly. Let's forget about it. We can't accommodate someone like you. Moreover, the price of joining us. Perhaps you may not be willing to accept it. Chen Tianai said in a mysterious tone. 792. Theory of the Immortality of Information. Shu Bai looked at him deeply. Chen Tianai's words were extremely meaningful. He seemed to see through the origin of the doppelganger Shu Bai. However, he didn't point it out, acting all mysterious. Fang Ziji was quite baffled by it. However, you were right about what you said earlier. Our Tian sect is indeed very interested in the scenes outside the Immortal Ruins. Or rather, any records from outside the Xuanwang realm are very important to us. What do you want to exchange for? Chen Tianai changed the subject and said directly. This was a bit beyond Shu Bai's expectations. I want the Dao Transformation Stone, the higher the quality, the better. Soon, he decisively made his request. Dao Transformation Stone. Chen Tianai pondered for a moment, but ultimately shook his head slightly. We no longer have any individual Dao Transformation Stones within the Tian sect. You might have to try your luck in the Xuanwang realm. Change your request. Fang Ziji was a little unhappy when he heard this. Old Chen, are you looking down on our sect master because he's young and easy to bully? The person who led us in earlier said that as long as you join the Tian sect, you'll get a medium-grade Dao Transformation Stone for free. Why is it that you don't have any? Chen Tianai glanced at Fang Ziji and smiled. Brother Fang, you don't need to test us anymore. Just as you thought, we all exist based on the Dao Transformation Stone Mother. Even though he had vaguely guessed it before, Fang Ziji's body still trembled slightly when he heard Chen Tianai admit it. Chen Tianai's body instantly turned blue and transparent again. In order to maximize the power of the Dao Transformation Stone Mother, we gathered all the Dao Transformation Stones we could find back then. And since then, we have never separated them. So we really can't fulfill your request. He looked at Shu Bai and said frankly. Existing based on the Dao Transformation Stone Mother. Shu Bai was not very disappointed. He just quietly looked at Chen Tianai's body. After the initial shock, Fang Ziji boldly stepped forward and touched Chen Tianai's body. As expected, it was as illusory as a projection of light. His palm passed right through. How can a dignified cultivator tolerate existing in this form? He was obviously still a little unacceptable for a while. Actually, there's not much difference. In fact, there are more conveniences. Would you like to try it? Chen Tianai asked nonchalantly. Fang Ziji was so frightened that he quickly retracted his hand. What exactly is the state of your entire Tian sect now? According to you, the entire sect is already a virtual existence, so what about the Hidao who went to the Myriad Immortals Alliance to negotiate and surrender earlier? Fang Ziji asked, puzzled. Between reality and illusion, we can transform freely. In most cases, we exist in a virtual state. If necessary, we can also manifest in physical form, no different from real cultivators, Chen Tianai said truthfully. However, doing so requires a lot of resources and the computing power of the Tao Transformation Stone Mother. We won't do it unless necessary. Usually, we only maintain the real form of a dozen or so disciples. Fang Ziji couldn't help but click his tongue. You can do that. Is this the method you came up with to deal with the great calamity back then? Shu Bai asked curiously. Isn't the price a bit too heavy? To be imprisoned on a stone for all eternity. And once it breaks, there's a risk of collective annihilation, Shu Bai asked very impolitely. Great calamity. That sinister smile reappeared on Chen Tianai's face. We, the Tian sect, have dozens of ways to safely overcome the calamity if laws cannot be practiced together. But that's not what we're pursuing. The transparent blue figure put his hands behind his back, and a burst of pride suddenly arose in his tone. What we, the Tian sect, want is true transcendence. Transcendence that can remain calm even in the face of true world-destroying calamities such as the fall of the Immortal Ruins and the destruction of the Xuanwang realm. His words shocked Shu Bai and Fang Ziji. Fang Ziji couldn't help but retort, just with your Tao Transformation Stone Mother. You may not be very clear about the horror of the Immortal Ruins. Chen Tianai waved his hand mercilessly, interrupting Fang Ziji's words. I know that the suction of the Immortal Ruins is so strong that it can distort time and space. But that's all it is. It hasn't reached the point of destroying time and space. Chen Tianai lightly stomped his right foot on the ground, and a circle of blue light spread outward from under his feet. After a moment, the walls became transparent again. And the building here, as well as the entire floating city, all became blue and transparent like Chen Tianai in an instant. Looking closely, there seemed to be countless scenes flashing in the blue light. Like the birth and death of worlds. This floating city is the Tao Transformation Stone Mother. Fang Ziji reacted after seeing where he was at the moment. He asked in surprise. Chen Tianai did not answer. Instead, he said to himself, as long as time and space do not perish, then information can last forever. Our Tian sect can continue to exist. Tao Transformation Stone Mother. There is no Tao Transformation Stone Mother in the world anymore. At that moment, we had already merged into one. Fang Ziji opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word for a long time. Obviously, he was once again shocked by the Tian sect's crazy behavior. Time and space do not perish, information lasts forever. It is truly a rare and wonderful idea. And your Tian sect actually realized it, it's truly wonderful. Shu Bai couldn't help but applaud. Although ordinary methods cannot completely destroy you. But there is a natural nemesis of yours in the Myriad Immortals Alliance. The Heavenly Mystery Mirror. With the ability of the Heavenly Mystery Mirror, it may not be easy to erase you. But trapping you in its body forever should still be possible. Shu Bai said thoughtfully. No wonder you surrendered so quickly. It's not a shameful thing to do for the sake of survival. Besides, it may not be easy for him even if we really fight. Now his primary task is to complete his own upgrade. Naturally, he will not attack us. And there is no conflict of interest between us, so we readily accepted our surrender. Chen Tianai did not deny it, not taking it seriously. Well said, but I have a question. Shu Bai stared straight at Chen Tianai at this time. How does your Tian sect know that the Immortal Ruins cannot destroy time and space? What if the suction of the Immortal Ruins has been constantly strengthening over the years? What it can't do now, doesn't mean it can't do in the future. Shu Bai said faintly. 793. The situation of the Immortal Ruins is even worse. Boom. These words seemed to create a huge shock to Chen Tianai, or rather, to the Tian sect members within the Stone Mother of Tao Transformation. In an instant, all the blue phantom figures in the floating city stopped what they were doing and looked towards Shubai in unison. It was as if the entire city had fallen into absolute stillness, with only the deep blue hue flowing silently. After a moment, Chen Tianai gently stomped his foot again. The walls of the space became opaque, blocking the view from inside and outside. Chen Tianai also transformed back into the appearance of an ordinary cultivator. Based on the current situation, we cannot rule out the possibility you mentioned. Chen Tianai's tone became quite heavy, in fact, as one of the few existences that could threaten us. We have conducted many deductions about the possible situations inside the open black lens bracket Immortal ruins close black lens bracket. But firstly, the known information is too little. Secondly, all methods of probing the Immortal ruins have been ineffective. All have gone and never returned. So we cannot verify the reliability of the deductions. Chen Tianai explained, while looking at Shubai. Shubai smiled. But you don't have any more transformation Dao stones, what are you going to trade with me? Do I look like the kind of person who is so kind as to give benefits to others for free? Chen Tianai looked Shubai up and down quite seriously, and nodded, judging from your face, indeed. However, we will not place our hopes on others. I think there is something that you should be interested in. Chen Tianai stretched out his left hand and inserted it straight into his head. Fortunately, there was no scene of brain matter and blood flowing, the hand turned into a phantom the moment it touched the brain. At the same time, Chen Tianai's head seemed to be divided into countless small square blue pieces, flashing continuously. This scene looked quite strange. After groping for a moment, Chen Tianai finally took his hand out. He showed the thing in his palm to Shubai and Fang Ziji. This is... Shubai narrowed his eyes slightly. A miniature version of the floating city was floating quietly in his hand. Unlike the stone mother of Dao transformation, which was a deep blue color. It was like glass, dazzlingly crystal clear and fragile. A one-time copy of the stone mother of Dao transformation. Inspired by the open black lens bracket heavenly profound treasure mirror close black lens bracket of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, it is a relatively independent entity, but it has some of the abilities of the stone mother. Chen Tianai explained without any emotion. What is it for? Fang Ziji's eyes lit up, and he reached out to grab the miniature floating city. But he grabbed nothing. Chen Tianai and the stone mother's copy instantly turned into a phantom state, impossible to touch. Fang Ziji curled his lips. The stone mother's copy contains all the information of the main body, and the energy to promote a open black lens bracket simulation close black lens bracket. You can use this simulation to experience the future deduced by the stone mother of Dao transformation. As if corresponding to Chen Tianai's words, the stone mother's copy in his hand suddenly burst into a dazzling light. In the white light, countless scenes seemed to flash quickly. Simulation, is it reliable? Fang Ziji was obviously hearing about this kind of thing for the first time, and he didn't seem to believe it very much. But Shubai was staring at the stone mother's copy, thoughtfully. The brightness of the white light gradually decreased, and the rapidly changing scene slowly stopped. Why are the sect leader and I in here? Fang Ziji asked with some surprise when he noticed the abnormality. According to the results of this simulation, you should agree to our transaction request. Chen Tianai crushed the stone mother's copy in his hand. After a moment, as he said, scenes of Shubai trading with them immediately appeared in the field. Although upon closer inspection, it could be found that some of the details were still different from the real world. But seeing his own future with his own eyes was still a bit unsettling. That's a bit too confident. Sect leader, let's not be deceived by him. Fang Ziji seemed quite annoyed. Shubai glanced at Fang Ziji lightly. Mr. Fang, are you using the wrong target for your aggressive tactic? I think you are very greedy for this thing. Exposed for his little thoughts, Fang Ziji smiled awkwardly. However, Shubai stared at the segments of scenes that were repeating and changing before him. After a moment of silence, he suddenly asked, with the heavenly profound treasure mirror entering the body, the heavenly profound mirror can see all the secrets of the cultivator's body without any blind spot. Is your stone mother's copy also like this? Chen Tianai smiled. That depends on you. The closer the data is to the real situation, the more accurate the simulation results will be. We have been living in seclusion in this Taizan cave heaven for thousands of years. Although we correct the deduction results of the stone mother of Dao transformation every once in a while. But in reality, we can only achieve superficial consistency. There are many secrets in the Xuanwang realm. I'm afraid even that heavenly Venerable who spread the Dharma wouldn't dare to say that he is open black lens bracket omniscient close black lens bracket. The Stone Mother's copy does not have the ability to see through everything like the heavenly profound treasure mirror. Instead, it requires the user to supplement their own data. If you want to deliberately hide something, you can. But the deduced results may also deviate accordingly. Chen Tianai said with a calm expression. That's what the Myriad Immortals Alliance said at the beginning. They said that the heavenly profound treasure mirror can be regarded as a separate entity and is not connected to the heavenly profound mirror. All cultivators can use it with confidence. But what happened later, Fang Ziji said with some disdain. Our Tian sect is different. Chen Tianai's face suddenly became very serious. Here, lies are absolutely forbidden. The world in the Stone Mother is built on real deductions. Any false information may lead to the collapse of the subsequent deduced world. Chen Tianai only explained briefly. You may not believe it. But this does not prevent it from being a fact. Hearing this, Fang Ziji looked suspicious, but Shu Bai nodded and said, I believe it. Then let's trade. So decisive, greatly exceeding the expectations of the two people present. Sect leader, Fang Ziji hesitated. After a brief moment of astonishment, Chen Tianai quickly took out another Stone Mother's copy from his head. Shu Bai had also prepared it long ago, and took out a projection stone from his storage ring. In an instant, the transaction was completed. Chen Tianai directly played the image recorded in the projection stone, where the Medicine King Cauldron flew out of the Xuanwang realm and was attracted by the Immortal ruins. He replayed it 3 times. The light and shadow then disappeared, and Chen Tianai looked solemn. It seems you were right. If the data you provided is true, then the attraction of the Immortal ruins has indeed been constantly strengthening over the years. 794. Li Fan is determined to die. How could the scenes recorded by the Medicine King True Cauldron be false? Fang Ziji snorted. His gaze drifted over the Dao Transformation Stone Mother replica that Shu Bai was constantly playing with in his hand, and he couldn't help but feel a little regretful when he saw Shu Bai finally put it away. Then, he asked with some curiosity, but you said that the attraction of the Immortal ruins is indeed constantly getting stronger. How did you figure that out? Chen Tianai didn't hide anything and explained, based on the time and angle of the deviation in the Medicine King True Cauldron's own trajectory after it flew out of the Xuanwang world. As I said before, in recent years, we have also sent people to explore the Immortal ruins. Although we gained nothing from the scenes within the Immortal ruins, we did record a lot of useful information. According to our calculations, the current suction of the Immortal ruins is almost more than twice as strong as when the Medicine King True Cauldron encountered it. That's really a bit scary. Wouldn't that mean that after a while, the entire Xuanwang world will be swallowed by it? Fang Ziji marveled, but there was no trace of fear on his face. Those longevity celestial sovereigns, I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, when the sky falls, there are these tall people to hold it up. He muttered in a low voice. Relying on others is not the act of a wise man. Chen Tianai did not agree with his attitude. After learning from the Dao Transformation Tian sect that the suction of the Immortal ruins was indeed constantly increasing, Shu Bai was also thoughtful. After discovering the Immortal ruins back then, the major forces of the Xuanwang world did not choose to escape immediately, but chose to capture other blessed lands and small worlds to fight against it. Perhaps it was because the Immortal ruins back then were not as terrifying as they are now. And next, the time left for the Xuanwang world is running out. Therefore, in the previous life, after the Xuanwang world was unified, the plan to push it away was immediately launched. Thoughts flashed by, and Shu Bai raised the last question of this trip. The cultivators in the city are all transformed from the disciples of the Tian sect in recent years. I just heard that the Dao Transformation Stone Mother itself has already given birth to intelligence. I wonder if it has created a human body for itself. Chen Tianai was a little surprised when he heard this question, which was somewhat irrelevant to the previous topic. However, this was not a secret matter, and he nodded and said, in the beginning, out of curiosity about humans, the Dao Transformation Stone Mother did generate a human body for analysis and research. However, it rarely appears in human form now. Having obtained the answer he wanted, Shu Bai nodded slightly. Then, he bid farewell to Chen Tianai. Chen Tianai hesitated for a while, but ultimately allowed Shu Bai and the others to leave. When Shu Bai and Fang Ziji disappeared within the Taishuan cave heaven, a figure with an indistinct appearance and a blue body suddenly appeared beside Chen Tianai. You just let them go like that? That Shu Bai, perhaps has many secrets on him. Outside of variables, perhaps he was brought back from outside the sky by the Medicine King sect. Or perhaps, he comes from those existences that were deliberately erased by the strong. The blue figure's voice sounded neither male nor female, and the tone was even more erratic, sounding extremely strange. But this did not hinder his communication with Chen Tianai. Deliberately erased? Are you saying, a reincarnation of a great power? A gleam of light flashed in Chen Tianai's eyes. Judging from the results of the deduction, it is very likely. This person Shu Bai has never appeared in any world we have deduced. His birth may simply be an accident. However, Fang Ziji calls him sect master. Then it means that we are missing some information, which led to errors in the deduction results, the blue figure explained quickly. There are too many unknown factors involved behind this. It's too risky to rashly pull him into the Tian sect. Chen Tianai pondered for a moment and nodded slowly. What did he mean by the last question he asked? Ripples fluctuated on the blue figure for a moment. Not long after, he replied, deduction failed. However, the rest was not finished, only the figure gradually faded and disappeared in front of Chen Tianai. But Chen Tianai seemed to have heard the unfinished words of the blue figure. Revealing an interested expression, in the Longgu Valley, Fang Ziji was telling Lu San and Zhang Yushan about his experiences on this trip. I didn't expect that the dignified Tian sect has now become like this. In comparison, our Medicine King sect is somewhat fortunate, Fang Ziji sighed repeatedly. Obviously, no matter how much Chen Tianai bragged, he could not accept the so-called immortality of information. Lu San also showed a look of sigh. His divine sense swept towards the daily practice of the many disciples in the Longevity Valley, a scene of vigorous vitality. The expression on his face changed, and he didn't know what he was thinking. At this moment, Shu Bai had already arrived in the secret room. The replica of the Tao Transformation Stone Mother, with its brilliant white light, was now floating in front of him. Simulate. Shu Bai snorted coldly, but he did not use his divine sense to make contact with it and carry out the so-called simulation operation. What Tao Transformation Tian sect cannot tolerate lies? What replica has no connection with the Stone Mother's main body? Shu Bai didn't believe any of it. Li Taishi was naturally suspicious, especially after possessing the treasure of returning to truth. He would not simply trust anyone else. Once you use it for simulation, either immediately return to truth. Or it's a critical moment of life and death, when you have no choice but to do so. In short, if you want to use it, you must be prepared for returning to truth to be leaked. Shu Bai stared at it for a long time, and finally put it away for the time being. According to Chen Tianai's explanation, although hundreds of years have passed in the simulation, only a moment has passed in reality. Perhaps it can be used at a critical moment to find a glimmer of life. I just hope that I will never have to use it in this life. Putting his thoughts aside for the time being, Shu Bai solemnly began to do one thing. Writing a will. The so-called failure is planned before the battle. This world is full of crises, and even though Li Fan has made many preparations, he is not sure of victory. If, just say if, he fails to get rid of the influence of Mr. Bai's resurrection, and ultimately dies and disappears, replaced by him, then, with Li Fan's temperament, how could he be willing? If I die, the existence of the returning to truth treasure in the world should be spread throughout the world. Want to replace me? Even if I die, you don't want to have a good time. A trace of gloom flashed across Shu Bai's face. One can imagine that if the cultivators of the Xuanwang world knew that there was still such a treasure as returning to truth in the world, even if its next holder is an existence comparable to the Longevity Celestial Sovereign, it will never have peace in the future. This is Li Fan's last resort. It will only be activated after Li Fan's consciousness is completely annihilated. And if Li Fan is lucky enough to win, these things will be destroyed in his mind. 795. Uncertainty of the heart is uneasy. 10000 monthly tickets plus more. It really does trigger a reversion, requiring a predetermined anchor. Currently, the 3 anchors are all set before Mr. Bai's resurrection. Even if he really could snatch the still true from me, he wouldn't be able to return to an era where he didn't even exist. The brand new anchor point he can use must be set after obtaining the still true. Therefore, I only need to spread the existence of still true throughout the world before I die. That will be a successful revenge. Shu Bai, while making his will, imagined the scene after his death. He hadn't felt this way in a long time. Since awakening, still true, at the brink of death in his first life, he hadn't thought about the day he would face death again for a long time. Perhaps because it hadn't truly arrived yet, he didn't feel much fear in his heart. Instead, he felt a mix of emotions, even including a hint of fantasy that he had Zhao Xing escaped a disaster. It was only the uncertainty about the future that caused his restlessness. In the past, no matter what kind of critical situation he encountered, he had never been hesitant. Even if the situation was so bad that it was beyond repair, he would think, at worst, all just use still true. The study where he lived as Immortal, or the peak of Jia Li Mountain, were the safest havens in his heart. But now, a sea area full of reefs and undercurrents suddenly lay outside the haven. A slight carelessness would lead to being smashed to pieces. In the time it took for his thoughts to wander, the first will was completed. The so-called will was actually a large-scale instantaneous sky image, imitated from the phenomena after a cultivator's death. It also contained a trace of his consciousness to serve as a switch for explosion or destruction. It needs to be buried deep in various corners of the Zanhuang realm beforehand, in places I myself don't know. This way, even if the resurrected Mr. Bai wants to stop it, he won't be able to. Yes, I still need to find someone trustworthy to do this. Faces flashed quickly through his mind. Soon, he had an idea. After completing 108 shadow wills, Xu Bai left Changsheng Valley and returned to Tianliang Prefecture. He found his old boss, Nangong Shirong. Nangong Shirong initially thought that Xu Bai had changed his mind and planned to return to work. But Xu Bai's request caught him off guard. Soul tracing token, what do you need this for? Nangong Shirong sized up Xu Bai. The soul tracing token was a tool from the Rebirth Bureau, which could trace the reincarnation destination of a cultivator based on items stained with the cultivator's pre-mortem aura. It was not publicly available for exchange to ordinary cultivator groups. It was only to prevent certain people from maliciously committing suicide, in an attempt to escape due punishment through reincarnation. The Rebirth Bureau is relatively independent. Even if I am in charge of a prefecture, it is difficult to talk to them. Nangong Shirong looked hesitant. Xu Bai didn't say anything and handed over a storage ring. Nangong Shirong suspiciously took it and checked, and was almost blinded by the mountains of top-grade standard spirit stones packed inside. A sweep of his divine sense revealed that the spirit stones inside, if converted into contribution points, would be no less than 3 million. Nangong Shirong couldn't help but gasp. Although with the advent of the White Mist expansion era and the conquest of the Realms era, a large number of contribution points were issued, causing the prices of the Myriad Immortals Alliance to rise a lot. But 3 million contribution points was still a huge sum. Even for him, the head of a prefecture, it was the same. It should be noted that if he wants to go further, he also needs to manage various relationships. He is not usually very wealthy. Without batting an eye, he quickly put the storage ring into his pocket. Nangong Shirong said solemnly, "Don't worry, leave this to me. I will definitely give you an answer within 3 days." After speaking, he left in a hurry. 3 days later, Xu Bai left quietly with the soul tracing token. From beginning to end, Nangong Shirong did not ask him the purpose of the soul tracing token. After all, some things are better left unsaid. After leaving Tianliang Prefecture, he met with Li Fan's main body on the way. After handing the soul tracing token to him, they exchanged a glance and parted ways again. Xu Bai returned to Changsheng Valley, responding to all changes with constancy. And Li Fan began his final arrangements. First, he contacted Dongfang Yao. This person is indeed loyal and righteous. Li Fan had almost completely forgotten about Wang Fusong. But during this time, he still hadn't given up on finding a way to reincarnate Wang Fusong. It's just that without connections, wanting to interfere in the affairs of the Rebirth Bureau is really as difficult as ascending to the heavens. So after such a long time, he still hadn't gained anything. The two had been separated for a long time. But after meeting, Dongfang Yao still greeted him warmly. But after taking the soul tracing token handed over by Li Fan, he was a little puzzled. What is this? After Li Fan told him the specific purpose of the soul tracing token, Dongfang Yao's body shook. This. I know you have always been brooding over the death of Brother Wangfu. So have I. I have never given up these years. This thing is not easy to come by. Take good care of it. After Brother Wangfu reincarnates, you can go find him yourself. Dongfang Yao didn't expect that Li Fan would complete his long-cherished wish instead. He was surprised and delighted. While feeling quite moved, He looked at Li Fan again and immediately noticed something unusual. Huh. I find him myself. Brother Li, what about you? Why don't you go together? In an instant, he understood. No wonder he felt that the other party was strange, acting like he was entrusting an orphan. His expression changed slightly, and he immediately asked. Li Fan looked bitter and told the truth. I have provoked a great enemy, and my life is in danger. I'm afraid I won't even have the chance to reincarnate. Dongfang Yao was shocked when he heard this. Even the power of the heavenly venerate could be affected. One can imagine how terrifying the enemy Li Fan spoke of was. But he only hesitated for a moment before resolutely Kaiko, without asking the reason why Li Fan was being chased, but instead took the initiative to offer help to Li Fan. But Li Fan shook his head and refused. It's just sending you to your death for nothing. Why would I bear to implicate you for nothing? Dongfang Yao stopped talking. But, if you really want to help me, then how about? As he spoke, Li Fan handed Dongfang Yao the storage ring containing 108 shadow wills. Help me bury this thing separately underground near the heavenly cities of each prefecture. Be careful not to be discovered. In this way, I may have a chance of survival. Li Fan instructed him via voice transmission. Seeing that this matter concerned the life and death of his friend, Dongfang Yao was also very solemn. After the two reluctantly parted, he immediately rushed to the nearest heavenly city. Even if Mr. Bai has my memories, it will take some time from finding Dongfang Yao to figuring out the location of the buried shadow wills from his mind and then destroying them. That's enough for me to launch the plan. The 5 bonus chapters are all over. There are 2 more updates tonight. 796. Xuanwang will change. Li Fan sensed the departing figure of Dongfang Yao through the faceless killing intent, thinking to himself. This Dongfang, not bad. Slowly retracting his gaze, Li Fan quietly arrived at a relatively inexpensive stone forest. This place was located in Zuwai continent, a region with scarce resources. Moreover, it had already been explored, with no entrances to small worlds or blessed lands discovered. Therefore, few cultivators came here now. It was perfect for Li Fan. Like Dongfang Yao, he would spend the next period of time setting up contingency plans throughout the Xuanwang world. Reaching 3000 Zhang underground and carving out a space, Li Fan took out a pile of broken puppet parts. They were very similar to the guardian puppets in the Heavenly Sun Grotto. All were brittle like ceramics, with a black and red appearance. Upon closer inspection, the red threads on each puppet part seemed to be part of the strokes of a character. This was the method Li Fan had conceived to dismantle the chaos word incantation. He set up a formation, placing the puppet core in the center. Then, he arranged the puppet parts in a disordered manner within the formation. When a specific condition is triggered, the formation will activate the puppet core and complete the reassembly in an instant. The chaos word incantation will be complete. Then, the puppet will self-destruct, serving as the energy to cast the divine power. With these thoughts in mind, Li Fan finished placing the puppets randomly. Strands of silver light in the formation passed through the puppet parts acting as nodes, connecting the formation into a unified whole. Li Fan gently tapped, and the formation fell into silence, without a trace of aura leaking out. This place is now set up. Although it's a bit crude, the simpler it is, the less likely it is to be discovered. Li Fan nodded with some satisfaction, then left quietly without even setting up a concealment formation. Anyway, he had refined no less than 1,000 of these chaos word puppets. Even if some were occasionally discovered, there would be no loss and it wouldn't affect the overall plan. After emerging from the ground, Li Fan looked around to ensure no one was tracking him. He also buried chaos word puppets in 2 other locations in Zuwai continent. With the arrangements properly made, he headed to the neighboring Shouyi continent. He wanted to bury 3 or 4 in each state of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. When the chaos words are released simultaneously, even the eternal celestial Venerable will be attracted and have their vision obscured. Li Fan's movements were swift. When he had methodically completed the arrangements in the 35th state, he suddenly paused his actions. Is it finally time to advance to the transformation god stage? Li Fan looked up into the distance. The journey of the holy embryo Shubai through the Xuanwang world had also finally reached its end at this moment. The change of the world about to be born that he finally absorbed into his own blessed land was the flower of the heavenly spirit about to be born. I once thought that the heavenly spirit flower, tainted by baleful aura and forever devoid of beauty, would never reappear in the world. It seems that the self-healing ability of this Xuanwang world is truly extraordinary, Li Fan mused to himself. As the holy embryo Shubai absorbed this change of the world, it was as if a spring breeze had swept through the blessed land. Flowers bloomed in succession, a breathtaking sight. Even Li Fan, who was tens of thousands of miles away, seemed to smell the fragrance of flowers from the holy embryo Shubai's blessed land. As if completing the last piece of the puzzle, the entire blessed land finally sublimated to the level of a small world. A strange energy flowed within the small world, from the sky, to all things, and then to the thick earth. Then, it circulated repeatedly. A rumbling sound faintly came from the depths of the earth, accompanied by the sound of rain, wind, and the chirping of insects and birds within the small world. They all composed a grand and vibrant musical movement. Li Fan seemed to see the process of the small world constantly expanding and sublimating in the future. The holy embryo Shubai stood in the void of heavenly spirit continent. Although no other cultivators discovered his existence, the subtle changes in heavenly spirit continent caused by him were noticed by some cultivators. For example, Sun Qi, who was reporting the progress of his reverse derivation of the universe record cultivation to Sun Liancheng, suddenly stopped. He looked up at the sky outside. What's wrong? Sun Liancheng also looked in the direction of Sun Qi's gaze, but did not notice anything unusual. Sun Qi frowned, and after a long time, shook his head slightly. Perhaps it was my illusion. Just now, for a moment, I seemed to feel the world reviving. But it was only for an instant. Now this feeling has disappeared. Sun Qi said slowly, word by word. From his still hesitant eyes, it could be seen that it was definitely not just an illusion. The world is reviving. Sun Liancheng narrowed his eyes, wondering what he was thinking. And through the faceless killing intent, sensing the scene transmitted from Sun Qi's side, Li Fan's heart was heavy. Only he knew that Sun Qi's intuition was correct. The revival change of heavenly spirit continent was extracted by the holy embryo Shubai and injected into his own blessed land. Without this change of power, it would take a lot of time for heavenly spirit continent to accumulate power to return to its original prosperous state. The revival power of heavenly spirit continent was slightly different from that of the Kongyan Sea. The Kongyan Sea was a creative change from life to death, from destruction to new life. And heavenly spirit continent was a normal change of vitality from desolation to prosperity. With this change, the blessed land in the holy embryo Shubai's body was completely transformed into a small world. Being in the same body with it, Li Fan could also have a panoramic view of the scenery of this new small world. His divine sense quickly swept over, overlooking the continuous and vibrant land below. A trace of familiarity suddenly surged in his heart. This terrain distribution, it seems I've seen it somewhere. In order to verify what he thought in his heart, he quickly located several iconic mountains and water systems. Sure enough, exactly the same. Li Fan's heart was shaken inexplicably. This is the scenery of the ancient Xuanwang world. Through Examen Yu's works, Li Fan understood the terrain differences between the ancient and current Xuanwang world, removing the white mist barrier and reassembling the scrambled states. What was formed was the original appearance of the ancient Xuanwang world. This was what the holy embryo Shubai had been doing during this time. Ordinary transformation god cultivators rely on the changes of one state, one species. And the holy embryo Shubai's complete transformation god uses. Li Fan's heart trembled, the Xuanwang change about to be born. Using the blessed land within the body to predict the changes that will occur in the Xuanwang world. The result of the Xuanwang world's own evolution without the interference of cultivators or the eternal celestial Venerable. The more Li Fan thought about it, the more shocked he felt. If it weren't for the avatar of the heavenly Tao, getting the support of the world itself, it would be impossible to do this. Even if I have the returning truth and constantly try, it won't work. Li Fan understood. Although he had advanced to the transformation god stage, the aura on the holy embryo Shubai's body did not change at all. Like Immortal, he stood quietly in the void. There is one more chapter later, definitely. All code and sleep. 797. Mistakenly changing the geography of heaven and earth. Without pausing for long, Shubai, who had just advanced to the god transformation stage, took action once more. And this time, it caused Li Fan, who was still immersed in shock, to instantly feel his heart race and a sense of suffocation wash over him. As everyone knows, in the Xuanwang realm, after the celestial Venerable of law transmission created the new law, to achieve the Tao harmonization realm, one must sacrifice the soul of heaven and earth. Before this, Li Fan had imagined the path for the holy embryo Shubai to enter Tao harmonization. Crimson Flame, Azure Wind, Black Swamp. Or the extremely powerful Inkkill who carries out the duty of world destruction. But at this moment, when Li Fan truly sensed what was happening to the holy embryo Shubai, his understanding was once again completely subverted. The holy embryo Shubai stood still in the air, like a stone statue, unmoving. But it was as if something descended from the sky and landed on the holy embryo Shubai. Boom! In Li Fan's mind, a few images flashed instantly. Fertile land, full of vitality. A blurry figure descended, then froze thousands of miles. Everything in sight fell into complete silence. Soul of heaven and earth, frost ice. In the holy embryo Shubai's originally dark hair, a strand of frosty white suddenly appeared. Although it quickly returned to normal, this phenomenon brought immense shock to Li Fan. Because according to the perception transmitted from the holy embryo Shubai's body, in that instant, he had already grasped the authority of the soul of heaven and earth frost ice. The souls of heaven and earth are born with heavenly duties, each with its own power. Once a cultivator kills and refines them, taking their place, they can instantly steal and master the power that originally belonged to heaven and earth. This is also why the combat power of new Law Dao harmonization cultivators is generally far superior to that of old Law Dao harmonization cultivators. But now, something that seems to violate the iron law of the new law has happened to the holy embryo Shubai. Without killing the soul of heaven and earth, the authority of the soul of heaven and earth has been transferred to him. Moreover, this is the first one. Silently, a second wave seemed to travel thousands of miles, descending upon the body of the holy embryo Shubai. Illusions appeared again before Li Fan's eyes. Thousands of miles of barren land, infested with alien insects, not a blade of grass grows. Suddenly, drops of fine rain fell upon the world. The originally barren land, nourished, slowly became fertile. But those alien insects seemed to have encountered a terrible natural enemy. In desperate cries of squeaking, their bodies slowly dissolved, washed away by the rain, turning into fertilizer for the earth. Soul of heaven and earth, azure rain. The holy embryo Shubai's hair seemed to lengthen slightly. Li Fan's heart suddenly stopped beating. Because in that instant, the holy embryo Shubai also mastered the authority of azure rain. In just a moment, two souls of heaven and earth had been added to him. However, the holy embryo Shubai was not satisfied. He closed his eyes. Towards the sky, he stretched out his hands, opened his arms. From east to west, from south to north, the souls of heaven and earth came one after another. Damn it, Li Fan cursed inwardly, instantly stopped watching the show in a daze, and accelerated the actions at hand. Looking at his Tao harmonization speed, I'm afraid there won't be enough time to arrange the chaos character puppets in every state. I can only choose states with more cultivators. After completion, return to the Longevity Valley as soon as possible. While flying towards the nearest heavenly city, Li Fan recalled and observed everything that was happening to the holy embryo Shubai, his thoughts racing. Without killing the soul of heaven and earth, he has its authority. This is heavenly principle misdirection. Even with the talent of the avatar of the heavenly Tao, this is a bit too much. Ordinary cultivators can inherit the power of the soul of heaven and earth by killing them, due to the blessing of the celestial Venerable's new law. But the holy embryo Shubai's behavior is not sacrificing the soul of heaven and earth at all, but transforming into the soul of heaven and earth. In an instant, Li Fan understood the holy embryo Shubai's plan. Even with the talent of the avatar of the heavenly Tao, reversing the principles of heaven and earth is not something that can be done overnight. Moreover, from the conversation between Sun Liancheng and Sun Qi that he overheard before, the deeper one is favored by the heavens, the greater the difficulty of reversing the principles of heaven and earth, and the stronger the backlash. It is very likely that the holy embryo Shubai will not be able to attain the longevity realm at all. But after his resurrection, his opponents will inevitably include those longevity celestial venerables. Tao harmonization and longevity, a difference of one realm, is like the difference between heaven and earth. How can he be able to resist? Only by bringing the power of Tao harmonization to the extreme. One soul of heaven and earth is equivalent to the power of a Tao harmonization realm cultivator. If one Tao harmonization is not enough to contend with the power of a longevity celestial venerable, then 10, 100. Various different powers of the souls of heaven and earth, fused into the body of the holy embryo Shubai. Each time he fused one, the aura on his body leapt up a level. and the images that Li Fan sensed slowly became blurred. From being immersive at the beginning, to being separated by a thin film, to being like looking at flowers in the fog. Li Fan was losing absolute control over the holy embryo Shu Bai. Which also means, Mr. Bai is awakening. Li Fan seized this last opportunity to obtain information from the holy embryo Shu Bai as much as possible. I see. His mastery of the power of the soul of heaven and earth does not mean that these souls of heaven and earth no longer exist in the Xuanwang realm. But through misdirection, the power that originally belonged to the soul of heaven and earth is temporarily transferred to his body. Countless different kinds of alien energy are intertwined, but there is not a trace of rejection. This method, apart from the avatar of the heavenly Tao, no one else can withstand. No matter how high the talent. No, this is not a question of talent at all. Li Fan also keenly noticed something. As the number of soul of heaven and earth authorities being misdirected increased, the body of the holy embryo Shu Bai was also changing slightly. Height, outline, becoming more like the phantom of the soul of heaven and earth. The pressure was getting stronger and stronger, and Li Fan completely felt the pressure between life and death, and the impending disaster. Fortunately, when the holy embryo Shu Bai had exhausted all the soul of heaven and earth authorities wandering in the world, his Tao harmonization slowed down instead. Because, next, it was time for the souls of heaven and earth that originally did not exist in the world and only descended at critical moments to appear. The sky of the heavenly spirit state suddenly dimmed. An imperceptible shadow was attached to the holy embryo Shu Bai. Boom! As if his brain had been hit hard, Li Fan, who had completed all preparations and was rushing towards the Longevity Valley, almost staggered and fell directly from the sky. Soul of heaven and earth. Shadow. Sensing the transmitted information, beads of sweat slipped from Li Fan's forehead. Not because of fear, but because being in the same body as the holy embryo Shu Bai had already put a lot of pressure on him. In layman's terms, it is, what level are you? Using the same body as me? The picture was flickering, and Li Fan sensed that an extremely strong soul of heaven and earth seemed to be descending on the land of the heavenly spirit state. P.S. The so-called misdirection is to transfer the numerical attributes of one item to another. 798. Mr. Bai comes to the world. The aura faintly emanating from that wisp of heaven and earth's soul was not unfamiliar to Li Fan. It was precisely the heaven and earth's soul, Ink Kill. Saint Child Shu Bai's eyes became even darker and more profound in an instant. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate the barriers of thousands of miles of space, directly reaching Li Fan. Boom! Li Fan, who had just flown back to the Longevity Valley, was struck as if by a heavy blow, his figure swaying precariously. This anomaly immediately caught Lu San's attention. Among the three from the Medicine King sect, Fang Ziji was focused on qi refining. Zhang Yushan was wholeheartedly cultivating. Only Lu San was most concerned about the development of the Medicine King sect, his divine sense enveloping the entire valley, constantly paying attention to the movements of the sect's disciples. Therefore, he was the first to notice Li Fan's abnormality. Young master, are you injured? Lu San teleported to Li Fan's side, his expression somewhat nervous, not feigned. It's nothing, just a slight mishap in cultivation. I'll be fine after a short rest, Li Fan said, waving his hand after recovering slightly. Seeing Li Fan's aura gradually stabilizing, Lu San slowly nodded. However, there was still a hint of doubt in his eyes. Li Fan did not explain, and after dismissing Lu San, he came alone to the secret chamber of the sect's cultivators. First, he sensed the situation of the afterimage. Dongfang Yao was indeed efficient and swift. All 108 afterimages had already been arranged properly. It's just a helpless backup plan. If possible, I only hope it will never be activated. Li Fan only glanced at it casually and then stopped paying attention. Instead, he continued to check the situation of Saint Child Shu Bai in Tianling continent through the increasingly blurred connection between their bodies. As if shrouded in a thick white mist, he could only vaguely see the fleeting images from the occasional gaps. He could no longer sense the specific information of the heaven and earth's soul being transferred. However, he could clearly perceive that the power of the heaven and earth's soul concentrated on Saint Child Shu Bai was increasing. And as his body became more and more like the heaven and earth's soul, the pressure emanating from him could no longer be concealed. From every corner of the Xuanwang world, gazes were cast over. However, even the eternal celestial Venerable, in a near harmony of heaven and man perfect state, would need some time to discern the origin of this Saint Child Shu Bai who had never appeared in the Xuanwang world. And at this moment, in the sky above Tianling continent, suddenly rolling black clouds arose for no reason. The sun was blocked, and the entire Tianling continent instantly became as dark as night. It was not just that the vision fell into darkness. Even all kinds of crying were isolated by this sudden flash of darkness. Within Tianling continent, countless cultivators were filled with fear because of this inexplicable state, thinking that some great calamity had descended. Only those few powerhouses in the Tao integration realm suddenly stood up, looked up at the sky, their faces shocked. Fellow Taoist Zhao, are you ready? In Longevity Valley, Li Fan used a communication talisman to contact Zhao Shuyuan. I made it clear in advance that I can only make a move once at the most critical moment. Whether it succeeds or not, future matters have nothing to do with me. By the way, I also specially replaced the puppet clone dispatched this time with your appearance, completely severing my relationship, so don't think that you can scare others by relying on me. Zhao Shuyuan replied very quickly, obviously he was quite worried about this transaction. However, Li Fan gave a price that he could not refuse at all, making him willingly take the risk. Having received Zhao Shuyuan's confirmation, Li Fan did not say much. He just hung up the communication. His eyes looked at the 81 chaos word puppets standing straight in the secret chamber. Not only was each puppet engraved with incomplete chaos words, these 81 puppets also formed a rough, chaos, appearance as a whole. However, their core components were still gathered and placed in the very center. The final assembly had not yet been completed. If I'm not mistaken, after Saint Child Shubai reaches Tao integration and Mr. Bai completely awakens, the first thing he will do should be to come to me and cease returning to truth. There is no avoiding it, there is no escaping it. I will wait for him here, only in death can one seek life. Sitting cross-legged in the center of the chaos word puppets, Li Fan refocused his attention, trying to sense the situation on Saint Child Shubai's side. That cloud covering the sky seemed to be able to affect even this mutual sensing between the main bodies. It was already intermittent. Most of the time, it was impossible to sense. Only in short gaps could he vaguely see the images from Tianling continent. There was no longer any transfer of heavenly principles occurring, it seemed that he had already gathered all the power of the heaven and earth soul of the Xuanwang world. Saint Child Shubai's appearance was already completely different from that of the Shubai clone. He should still be familiarizing himself with this new body. He stood in the air, still and motionless. The various powerful auras that had originally been revealed and emitted during the process of transferring the heavenly principles also slowly dissipated. Returning to simplicity, he was just like an ordinary person. Suddenly, he seemed to sense something, and slowly raised his head to look at the sky. His gaze penetrated the dark clouds, passed through the firmament, and came outside the Xuanwang world. Li Fan's pupils suddenly contracted. Because through the connection between their bodies, he actually saw a giant palm, pressing down overhead. In the last moment of the picture, he seemed to see the scene of the giant palm colliding with the clouds of Tianling continent. The giant palm was unstoppable. The black cloud barrier formed by the will of heaven and earth was as fragile as porcelain in front of it, shattering at the first touch. And Saint Child Shubai just quietly watched the giant palm overhead. There was no fear on his face. The sensing picture disappeared, and Li Fan counted silently in his heart. After 3 breaths, he felt the ground shaking violently. It was as if he had experienced a major earthquake, and it gradually calmed down after a long time. Li Fan knew that the scene he had just seen was not an illusion. This earthquake was caused by the aftermath of the collision between the giant palm and the black cloud barrier. Longevity Valley is located in Loyan continent, separated from Tianling continent by almost half of the Myriad Immortals Alliance's territory. Even so, it was subjected to such a violent impact. From this, it can be seen that the collision may have even affected the entire Xuanwang world. The Celestial Venerable of Teachings. The name flashed through Li Fan's mind instantly. The Tianling black clouds were the work of the Xuanwang world's heavenly Tao, in order to buy enough time for Mr. Bai's arrival. And without a doubt, the only one who could destroy it so easily was the one pressing down on the heads of all new law cultivators. The Celestial Venerable of Teachings. Although the Celestial Venerable of Teachings took action and easily shattered the heavenly Tao's cover. But the Xuanwang heavenly Tao's purpose had already been achieved. Because Saint Child Shubai, or rather, Mr. Bai, was gone. There was no longer a trace of aura belonging to a cultivator on his body. Completely merged into the Xuanwang world. Just like a drop of water falling into the sea. Even if the divine sense of the celestial Venerable of teachings could sweep across the entire Xuanwang world in an instant, it would still take some time to find Mr. Bai. Before completely losing the sense of Saint Child Shu Bai, Li Fan saw Mr. Bai, quickly heading towards Longevity Valley. There are 2 more chapters tonight. 799, Fighting in the Valley of Immortality. It seemed like he was meeting Bai Xiansheng's deep eyes. Li Fan's heart suddenly stopped. As expected, I guessed right. The first thing he wants to do after resurrecting is to get his hands on open black lens bracket still true close black lens bracket. Putting himself in Bai Xiansheng's shoes, Li Fan's own spiritual sense issued a frantic warning. Thinking of that powerhouse whose strength was almost equivalent to countless Tao integrations stacked together, about to come knocking on his door. It was like facing black clouds pressing down on the city, the immense pressure almost made it difficult for him to breathe. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. The stone crystal of transformation in his mind operated to the extreme, thinking about whether there were any omissions in his preparations. But he also knew that in the face of a huge gap in strength, all calculations actually depended on luck. My life must not be cut short. At the juncture of life and death, and without still true to rely on. Li Fan felt his tension gradually disappear, and his mind became clear. All distracting thoughts disappeared. He calmly thought about possible countermeasures. Although I have lost the connection with the holy embryo Shu Bai, this loss may just be a one-way, simple shielding. It cannot be ruled out that Bai Xiansheng can still sense my situation through the clone Shu Bai, or even the pollution of his main body. So the first step is to get rid of the clone Shu Bai, trying to cut off and weaken the connection between him and me. Otherwise, any plan would be as transparent as glass in front of him. And next, Li Fan frowned, deducing and thinking about the various possibilities that would happen next. At the same time, he waited for Bai Xiansheng's arrival. But it seemed that Bai Xiansheng's speed was much slower than expected. A full incense stick of time passed, but he still didn't see his figure. Could it be that he went to find Dongfang Yao, to first remove those open black lens bracket afterimage close black lens bracket threats? Li Fan's heart moved, and after checking, he found that both Dongfang Yao and the afterimages were unharmed. Then where did he go? A trace of doubt flashed in his mind. But soon, he vaguely guessed a possibility. Believing that with Bai Xiansheng's current strength, he could teleport and break through space restrictions to come to Longevity Valley. But don't forget, Celestial Venerable of Preaching is watching and observing the Xuanwang world from above. Such a conspicuous move would be tantamount to actively exposing himself. So, it is possible that Bai Xiansheng adopted a method that would not show any anomalies as much as possible, walking slowly. Of course, this, walking slowly, is in comparison to teleporting. In any case, it should be soon. Li Fan sat upright in the center of the cultivation secret room. And the clone Shu Bai quietly came to the entrance of Longevity Valley. Li Fan's guess was correct. Before long, the closed space channel was suddenly opened. The Medicine King sect disciples on duty were stunned. When they went to check, they found that no one had come at all. Just as they were confused, a figure came to Longevity Valley. Before he could stand still and say a word, 10,000 black evil spirits, like countless flying insects, burst out suddenly. Turning into a sky full of flying swords, they slashed towards Bai Xiansheng. Every strike was enough to seriously injure a Dao integration cultivator. Yu Shan, Lu San's shocked voice sounded. Those countless black evil swords were unleashed by Zhang Yushan. It was her unique skill open black lens bracket ephemeral and unfixed sword close black lens bracket. The unfixed sword intent, stained with monstrous evil aura, one sword intent could easily destroy the body and extinguish the soul. Under normal circumstances, Zhang Yushan could use up to 1,000 sword intents at the same time, which was already the limit. But at this moment, it had obviously exceeded the upper limit of her load. Her whole body seemed to have wounds, bursting open. Blood flowed from her whole body, even the corners of her eyes. This kind of injury might not matter to new law cultivators. But for old law cultivators, it was already extremely serious. But Zhang Yushan ignored it. Endless black evil swords continued to slash. Never give up. Although she didn't know who this inexplicably appearing figure was, how could Lu San sit idly by seeing Zhang Yushan working so hard? Fang Zaiji, he shouted angrily, awakening old Fang, who was still fascinated by refining. At the same time, he waved his palms, patting towards the green light. A green light surged towards Zhang Yushan, repairing the injuries on her body. Another green light, in an instant, turned into 10,000 threads, trying to lock Bai Xiansheng. Before the green lines reached Bai Xiansheng's side, a black heavy hammer, like a small mountain, appeared above his head. It was about to fall heavily. The siege of the Three Medicine King sect Dao integrations was Li Fan's first preparation. The reason why Zhang Yushan took the lead was because she was affected by the second open black lens bracket true enticement fruit close black lens bracket she had swallowed before, and under Shu Bai's instructions she launched a never-ending attack. And as long as Zhang Yushan was caught in the battle, Lu San would definitely not ignore it. Fang Ziji also had a high probability of joining the battle. With just one true enticement fruit, he could drive 3 Dao integrations into battle. Although the strength of the Three Medicine King sect Dao integrations was weaker than that of the current Law Dao integrations. But the 3 of them joining forces was definitely a considerable combat power. However, Bai Xiansheng seemed to have anticipated their siege. A kind smile appeared on his face. His figure flickered, disappearing in the encirclement of 10,000 evil spirits, green lines, and black hammer. With a speed that no one present could see clearly, he came to Lu San and the others one by one. He stretched out his right index finger and tapped lightly. The 3 Dao integrations were immediately stunned on the spot, as if they had lost all their abilities, and gently fell from midair to the ground. At this time, Bai Xiansheng looked at the Dao integration strikes that were still lingering in the air and about to explode. He gently clenched his right hand. Those magical power fluctuations, in an instant, were like a ball of hemp rope, absorbed into his hand. Then, without seeing how he resolved the action, the small sphere containing terrifying energy was absorbed into his body from his palm. Lu San and the others were not injured. They landed safely on the ground, looking at Bai Xiansheng, who looked very similar to the sect master's clone Shu Bai, and were all in a daze. With a wave of his hand, he easily captured them. This kind of strength had far exceeded their imagination. Celestial Venerable of longevity, why does he look exactly like the sect master's clone? In their hearts, countless doubts arose. But before they could think, another change occurred in the field. A huge metal furnace came from nowhere. It crashed towards Bai Xiansheng at high speed. There were already cracks on the surface of the furnace. The moment it was about to approach Bai Xiansheng, it exploded suddenly. The furnace fragments flew, but on the way to scattering, they were swallowed by a twisted and expanding monster beast flesh. Roar! A giant meat ball, with thousands of ferocious faces of monster beasts constantly emerging on it. In countless eyeballs, there was only tyranny and destruction. From the moment of birth, the first thing he saw was Bai Xiansheng. The Emperor One Beast let out a strange roar, and rammed towards him barbarously. From his body, countless tentacles were divided in an instant. Each one carried the aura of demonic energy, whipping forward. There will be another chapter at 2 a.m. 800. Seeking life in chaos. The smile on Mr. Bai's face gradually faded, replaced by a hint of sternness in his eyes. Under his gaze, the Emperor One Beast, which had been waving its tentacles in a frenzy, suddenly stopped in midair. Then, its body seemed to be roasted by invisible flames. Melting, disappearing. One by one, holes appeared in succession. The Emperor One Beast let out a sharp and frantic scream. But Mr. Bai's face showed no pity. His gaze was even more profound, and the blazing invisible flames tormented the Emperor One Beast like a cruel punishment. In the Longevity Valley, everyone who witnessed this scene trembled. Although most of them couldn't figure out Mr. Bai's strength or realm. However, the terrifying pressure from the peerless beast released from the furnace was something everyone could feel. Even a Dao integration cultivator would probably not fare well against it. But such a terrifying beast, in front of Mr. Bai, had no power to resist. It could only allow itself to be slowly tortured and dissipate into the world. Having personally refined the Emperor One Beast, Li Fan had a very clear understanding of its strength. He didn't expect the Emperor One Beast to pose any obstacle to Mr. Bai. In fact, as before, the Demon Beast was just a trigger. He was not in the profound yellow realm but was hidden in the Longevity Valley's secret realm. Thus, Senior Brother Zhang's Grand Vow Dharma body was somewhat late in arriving. It wasn't until the Emperor One Beast was melted to only 1/10 of its original size that a wisp of purple energy arrived gracefully. The purple light shone brightly, transforming into a tall figure, standing upright and towering. Ignoring everyone present, it only stared at the Emperor One Beast trapped by Mr. Bai. The purple firmament divine lightning, condensed into a spear, stabbed down fiercely. Mr. Bai looked at the Dharma body in the sky but did not stop senior brother Zhang from taking action. However, the moment the Emperor One Beast was struck by the purple divine lightning, the remaining part of the Emperor One Beast actively exploded. An extremely dense, even terrifying, blood mist spread around instantly with the explosion. Even the purple firmament divine lightning, which could purify all demons and evils, was obscured by its light. Mr. Bai, after being stunned for a moment, showed anger for the first time. Just because, in the process of refining the Emperor One Beast, Li Fan added a little something. It was the essence blood of 10,000 people collected in a certain life and had since existed in the returning to truth space. The power of the immortal mortal miasma suddenly erupted, and even Mr. Bai had to temporarily avoid its edge. At this moment, in the underground secret room, Li Fan suddenly opened his eyes. It's time. With a thought, 1/3 of the chaos word puppets buried in various parts of the profound yellow realm were detonated by Li Fan. Streams of ominous and terrifying aura erupted in various places shortly after. At this moment, all the cultivators in the profound yellow realm felt a sense of impending disaster. They were horrified and their hearts beat faster. But they couldn't say why. Moreover, one after another, huge divine senses swept across the land of profound yellow, trying to find the source of these disturbances. The sky also changed color. It was as if something was getting closer and peering. The impact of the chaos word incantation was better than Li Fan expected. Although they were distributed in various places, when they erupted together, they seemed to spontaneously generate a connection. Ignoring spatial intervals, they faintly connected into one. Without deliberately writing, on the land of the profound yellow realm, a huge, chaos, character was formed crookedly. While various strange things gradually happened in various places, Li Fan's purpose was also achieved. Mr. Bai is the incarnation of the profound yellow heavenly Tao. His power also comes from the profound yellow realm. Now that the profound yellow realm was affected by the chaos word incantation and fell into chaos, at that moment, Mr. Bai's movements also had a brief, momentary stiffness. And this was precisely the only possible chance of survival that Li Fan had been waiting for a long time. Thus, at this moment, all his prior preparations erupted together. First, the doppelganger Shu Bai flashed in front of Mr. Bai. The two looked at each other, looking at the extremely similar faces opposite them. But they didn't say much. The doppelganger Shu Bai didn't hesitate, and in an instant, his own cave heaven collapsed. Shu Bai died by suicide. Although after the holy blood transformation gave birth to a doppelganger, the death of the main body would not involve the new doppelganger. But after all, they came from the same source, and there was a mysterious connection between them. The demise of the main body would inevitably bring some slight, indelible influence to the doppelganger. It was a natural limitation of the holy blood transformation technique. Even with Mr. Bai's current cultivation, he still couldn't avoid it. Therefore, Mr. Bai's stiffness was extended for a moment. When the doppelganger Shu Bai disappeared, Li Fan instantly felt that the connection with Mr. Bai in the dark was cut off a lot. He tried it, and although he could open the returning to truth panel, he still couldn't confirm returning to truth. So Li Fan began the next action. He stepped down and left the cultivation secret room in an instant. After leaving, the 9981 chaos word puppets hidden in the secret room exploded. The power of chaos instantly enveloped the longevity valley. The sky was obscured by a hazy force. A chaos descended. Like bamboo shoots after a rain, hundreds of yellow dead branches suddenly grew out of the ground in the longevity valley. After the light flashed, these dead branches turned into human figures. Looking at their faces, they were all exactly the same as Li Fan. They all showed strange smiles to the people present, and then quickly shrank back into the ground and disappeared. Everyone, including Mr. Bai, was attracted by this scene. The next moment, a greater turmoil struck. That was the wave caused by the simultaneous detonation of the remaining 2/3 of the chaos word puppets. Mr. Bai's body fell into stiffness again. At the same time, when no one noticed, a dark little cauldron rose into the sky. It was about to break through the secret realm and fly to the profound yellow realm sky. No matter how secretly he acted, after all, there were many people in the field, but someone still discovered the departing Medicine King True Cauldron. An exclamation attracted everyone's attention. But soon, their faces changed even more. Below the Medicine King True Cauldron, Suddenly countless figures were thrown in various directions like garbage. Lu San's body shook violently, and his face suddenly changed. Because he had already seen that these were all the Medicine King sect cultivators sleeping in the Medicine King True Cauldron. They were all old-fashioned cultivators with weak bodies. And they were still in a deep sleep. Being thrown at such a fast speed, if they were to hit the ground like this, I'm afraid that except for a few powerful ones, the others would be either dead or disabled. Save people, Lu San shouted repeatedly. The Medicine King sect disciples reacted one after another. But there were too many cultivators being thrown down, and they were all flying in different directions. The Longevity Valley was even more affected by the chaos, and even the cultivators themselves had difficulty flying and would be at risk of falling. They were unable to take care of themselves, let alone save others. Lu San's eyes were tearing apart, and he tried his best to save only a dozen people. Just as he was feeling a little desperate, Mr. Bai, who had recovered from his stiffness, stretched out his hand. He caught all the falling cultivators, and then gently placed them on the ground. The influence of the chaos had not disappeared, and Mr. Bai, who had still completed all this, twisted his right elbow strangely in a circle, as if it had been broken. Although it quickly returned to normal, it still made him frown slightly. "Thank you for saving us, Senior." Lu San checked slightly, and after confirming that all the fellow disciples were not in danger, he flew forward, clasped his fists, and said very gratefully. Mr. Bai didn't speak, but just looked at the Medicine King True Cauldron that had disappeared into the sky, and the hundreds of puppets that had already escaped to the land outside several states. And the shell of Li Fan lying on the ground, which had lost its breath of life. He shook his head slightly and showed a helpless smile.